And on Twitch, we are live. And on YouTube, we are also live. Ah, perfect. That was way easier. Oh, you know what? I'm actually going to keep the blue background light off because I kind of like the vibe. Working retail will kill me. What happened? Don't you listen, Rexpor. You need to handle this in a more healthy way. Kill other people. First, how are you? Quite good, actually. Really good. I'm late because I was having coffee with a friend. The best possible reason to be late. Killing customers frowned upon by my employer? Well, that doesn't make much sense. I mean, didn't like, what is it called? Didn't Panera Bread literally just do that like 2 weeks ago? And they're still around. They came on their nephews and a bunch of like, uh-huh. Hello, Doug, and hello, homies. Okay. Yep. I've decided the Christmas decorations have been up for a while actually. Today I decided I'm going to leave the normal stream light off because I think it makes the decorations more noticeable and prettier. She kept claiming there was 50% discounts at Lego, and I can say with utmost certainty there wasn't. Interesting. See, that's an interesting thing about customer service, is because I can tell you a lot of places in the US would train you to give her the discount anyway, which I'm not sure. I feel like that trains the consumer to be terrible. Any blunt object? You got to be more specific. Again, you're really not doing good here. You got to have a specific blunt object. Amateur. Register that mailbox that has money. There you go. Now we're talking. Blunt. Blunt is the opposite of sharp. Blunt is simply the opposite of sharp. Hit her head with her nephew. Yeah. See? You got it, Kate. So if he takes on a5, my plan was to play queen a4 and I win a7. And I feel like that's more important. I mean, he could play b6, but I don't believe that. I don't trust that move. I feel like I'm getting way too much activity if he does that. That people who work retail have. It's pretty funny. That legitimately sounds horrible. I know I'm memeing. I know I'm making a joke out of it, but like, that legitimately sounds horrible, and I'm so sorry you had to deal with that. Ooh, that's going to be difficult. You can do it, but it's going to be hard. Which I suppose you already know that, so. What do I take? Maybe I don't take anything. Maybe I play b4. Because he's got 2 pawns hanging. And while he's a pawn up, he does have 2 pawns hanging. And so I'm going to take one of these next turn. Without giving him the pawn on b4. Right? Hey, if you want to play e5 and blocking your own bishop, be my guest. Now I take that. Ooh, that's going to be difficult. It's just annoying because customer is king, but the customer is uninformed at best and stupid at worst. It's actually very much like a king. See? Look at that. Working retail is teaching you so much about monarchies. Yeah, worst. No, I got you. Currently in 2050. I think you could do it, Kate, but it'll be very difficult. Because you don't have that much time. $11 days? Yeah. I mean, it's good to push oneself, and I don't think it's impossible, but it's going to be very close to impossible. 80 elo a day is not easy, because you have to be consistent. You can't lose elo. Dead Cells on my phone works surprisingly well. I played it a little bit on my phone. I just couldn't. Hello, Wonder King. I just couldn't. The controls were too much for me. I really tried to do Dead Cells on my phone, but I just couldn't, man. So I'm up a pawn here, but it's a very fragile pawn. He's liable to get it back at any moment. Like, for example, right now. Dead Cell. I can manage the controls. I turned on auto attack and helped a lot. I did too. Is that on my default? I don't actually know. It's a quite well respected roguelike. I actually my Steam what's it called? My Steam roundup just dropped. And so I ranked every game that I've played through this year. Like finished playing this year. I ranked all of them. What's a roguelike? It's the games where you basically restart upon dying, is the simplest way of putting it. Completely serviceable? Interesting. Interesting. This is a weird position. I'm going to play this. Might be wrong. But I feel like if he goes rook a8, I'm happy to have the 2 rooks for the queen. Feel like I win this game? I do too, but it's very complex. Lend themselves really well to the mobile gaming format? Oh, absolutely. I'm telling you, man. I don't know if I've ever mentioned this, but something that I feel like I've mentioned is that I think Inscription, like the Casey's mod of Inscription, would be amazing on mobile. Like, wonderful, like spectacular. And I'm just shocked that they haven't tried to put it on mobile, because I feel like that game works so well in that format. If I'm not winning material, I'm very close to winning material, but it's not clear. Yeah, I'm telling you, Casey's mod of Inscription would be amazing mobile. Like, fantastic. I'm telling you, man. I need to move this knight. Wait. No, it doesn't. If he takes on CE2, I take with queen. Knight takes E2 does not win in exchange. I was very specific about that. That was very important for the position to me. That was very intentional. I triple calculated that. Now, bishop e3 is my primary idea. And I feel like I've massively improved my position. Does that work? Wow. I mean, I don't think I'm getting mated, but it's close. And the fact that it's close is insane. Am I getting mated? Hold on a second. I'm not getting mated, but it's really close. No, wait, I am getting mated. Because he has rook takes. Am I getting mated? That's insane. I'll have to give up the exchange. I have to play this. And then I take his bishop, so... Yeah, but then he plays rook d1 check again and wins. Sheesh. Sheesh. That's harsh. Hello, Lamaldo. That is a nice find. I completely missed that. Oh, wait. Never mind. I mouse slipped and now he has mate in 1. I hate chess so much. This is the worst game of all time. Chess is the worst game to ever exist. Chess is the worst game. Why do we play chess? Why do we play chess? Bro, literally I mouse slipped mate in 1. Okay, I'm not ending on that. I'm playing another rated game. That doesn't count. I won that game. I'm not, that does not count. I'm not going to mouse slip mate in 1 and call that a loss. No, it does not count. No. No. I'm not. I am putting my foot down. That does not count. No. I won't lie, Glass seems the best. You know what? I can shake on that, Wonder King. I personally don't use Glass. However, Glass is very good. That's a good take. Glass being best is a good take. Not my take, but it's a good one. Eight-bit is absolutely a garbaggio. 8-bit is terrible. I will not accept that. No, 8-bit is terrible. It's too bright. Kate is not cooking. Kate thinks she's cooking, she's not. Anyway, but yeah, my Steam thing came back, and so I've ranked all the games that I've played this year, or finished playing. The qualification I use is finished playing because my point is, if I didn't finish the game, but I decided I'm done playing it, I still rated that game. You know, I still ranked that game. And so, what's best? Space and ICC. I mean, it's what I'm running. Do you think I would run a piece set that I didn't think was best? Who do you... Green is not the color of chess. I have no idea where he got that from. He's threatening mate in 1. I probably shouldn't give him that, should I? I have to give him a pawn. That's horrible. I'm playing bad chess. What was I doing? Oh yeah, I'm going to Google Drive, so I can go to my games that I played this year list. Oh, he wants me dead. He wants me dead. I want here so I can play 97. So yeah, how many games did I play and finish this year? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So I finished 15 games in 1, 2, 3, 4. And there were 4 that I started but didn't finish because I didn't like them. Which is, I take with rook, he sacks the bishop. I play pawn takes, he goes queen takes, I play king h8. I'm guessing knight g5, in which case I think I have queen e7 and there's no mate. It's a heck of a gamble. You know what? I'll take the black custom background. And if I play king takes, then he gets queen... No, it doesn't have queen h4. He has to play queen h3. On 97. I'm smurfing in low elo right now. I'm doing the opposite. I'm sandbagging high elo. So if he doesn't do it now, it won't work next move. That's for sure. 1300 on main. What do you want alt? That's the real question. So, like... No, either right now. Ah. Well, just a warning, I wouldn't really brag about that. Thanks for the follow, by the way. I wouldn't really brag about that because I'm fairly certain having alt accounts is against chess.com terms of service, and it could get you banned. And I've been sleeping well these days. I've been sleeping okay. I didn't sleep super well last night, but I had a sick nap earlier today, so now I'm doing a little better. Evidently not well enough though, because goodness gracious, am I playing bad chess? Losing. Next question. We'll see. We keep playing. It's obviously winning for white. It's just how do you execute me, right? Is just the question. Hello, Vluppy. Now, luckily for me, I don't think it's the most obvious how you kill me. This bishop still guards e6, which I think is important. It's dying, sorry, or doing something useful in my chess? Well, yeah. Then obviously I must play this, or I lose. But I mean, he doesn't have any productive checks. This rook is very well guarded. I don't think it's actually that easy anymore. I think he's really made his life more difficult than it should have been. I really think he's misplayed this. I think I was very dead. Apparently it's not against terms of service. Oh, excellent. And then I was wrong. My bad. So give me that. And then give me that. And I am no longer losing. I don't know if I'm... I think I might be still worse, but I'm not losing anymore. I wish I had your elo. Everybody does until they get there, and then they have to play against 2100s, and they realize, oh wait, you don't have the future brain. It's not a brain thing, man. See, that's the funny thing. Chess is still associated with being smart, but don't think there's as much a correlation as most people think. I like bishop e7 a lot if I can play it. Even like bishop a6 I would play at some point. But a rook h5 might also be good. The problem with rook h5 is he just plays like knight e4. Yeah, well, that's definitely not me then. In that case, definitely not me. I mean, this looks reasonable. Learn fast and forget fast. ADHD certainly doesn't help either. Well, ADHD, common misconception. In ADHD, it's not forgetting things. It's they don't enter memory to begin with, which sounds like a pointless distinction, but it's actually a very important distinction. I would know. I have ADHD myself. Of course I know him. He's me. No. Okay. Now bishop e7 is really going to hurt. I was thinking about it, but after knight takes, trying to make sure that it's good for me. Because I'm checking the checks and that sort of thing. Of course I know him. He's me. Why do you think I'm doing this instead of like studying? I could also just play like queen e7 and call the bluff. And say, okay, I'll play bishop b7 next move. That looks better, honestly. Because what move does he have here? Play bishop b7? What is he going to play? Like, yeah, like what is he going to play? Like this? This isn't as threatening anymore because the knight's not on g5, so he's not attacking f7. It's like the Spider-Man meme. Yeah, exactly. I got put 948 elo. Oh, you can do better than that. I'm not afraid of rook b8. Queen takes g5, queen takes queen takes d2, queen takes d2. I have no idea. I honestly, truthfully do not know. I'm gonna play bishop b7 anyway. I actually don't care. Like, take my knight. Do I not have, like, full compensation? Like, come on. It's the strongest diagonal in the history of diagonals. Come on. There's no way. If you play takes, and then I take with g, this is the strongest diagonal of all time. It's completely dominant. It's insanely dominant. Now, I don't know if I win material, but it's, like, crazy. Such a strong diagonal. I don't know if I take with G or E, honestly. Both look interesting. G4 looks very suspicious, though. I do not trust bishop c4. Yeah, also, I prefer if you stopped Kate, just because, you know, rated game and all that. And also, this rook can come to h8. Wow, really? Really? Just like that? For real? Just like that? No cap. Totally capless. A cap free. This is either a terrible move or a genius move. If rook d7, I take the knight. And if he takes here, I take this. And I'm very happy. If rook d7, I take the knight. He takes with literally anything. I go queen g3, queen g5. Surely he wins? No, no shot. No shot. I have negative faith in this position. The amount of faith I have in this position is so astronomically low. I mean, maybe white wins, but I would be shocked. This looks horrible. You need to retire from chess, but this looks horrible. I sat through a 30-second ad. This better be good. Look at this position, Dezo. What more do you want from me? As a chess content creator, what more can I do than this position? This is the most content position of all time. Look at this position. What? Hey, 1K, congrats. This is the most content position of all time. Give me just a second. Takes here looks good, but that might be stupid. It looks good. Where does he move his queen? Doesn't have anyone move his queen. He has to play. He can't play king e2. Yeah, let's trap the king. Stay out. He hung his queen to Vienna. Chess! I'm just here? You are just here, Wonder King. This is true. Look at this position, Kate. One, it's very goofy. Two, I'm a pawn up. Now, he could take on a7, and I think that might be the best move. I'm actually calculating that right now. No, I don't think he can. Takes. He brings the other rook. Maybe he's just in time. So he could take on f7 there. I would trade the queens. But how do you even trade queens? That's exactly the problem, Wonder King. How do you trade queens? There's not an obvious way to me. Now, if I take on h2 and you go rook d7 check. I must have something, right? Do I have this check? You have to move back with the queen or rook. If you move back with the rook, it looks better for me. Because I take like this or something. And you're just down a tempo. No, I can't take that if you move back with rook. So if you move back with rook there. Oh, I have rook check. Maybe. Yeah, I have rook check. I have rook check. Oh wait, I always have rook check. No, no, that totally works. That totally works. Yeah. Yeah. If you go rook d7, I go queen check here, and then I go rook h1 check, no matter what. Right? Then this rook comes here. Something along those lines. Looks right. And if the queen ever goes check, then I have rook g4. And if you don't go rook d7, my next move is going to be rook f4, which looks losing on the spot. I don't think you can allow rook f4. He allowed rook f4. I expressly said you couldn't do this. How rude is that? This might be wrong. You honest, you should be a chess bro? You give me that vibe? I would, but I'm not Canadian. And I think that's a prerequisite. This, my friends, is called a pin. What a pretty checkmate. That's why we don't resign. Rook check, paycheck. True. All I need is techno, and then I'll be a true chess pro. See, that's why I didn't count the previous one, because that previous one doesn't count. I told you that previous one doesn't count. Check, 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 check. You had taken your knight? If you had taken my knight, I would be losing. No, wait. He took my knight. Also, no going back. We only look forward. Except for when we don't. I think you should stay, Alco. That's just an opinion. A me opinion. Are you anti-chess, bro? Are you anti-Canadian? Instead of g takes f4, you go to queen bx's knight and queen check, winning the rook. Probably. But g takes looked good. Look at that position, guys. That was such an interesting position. Canadians are too close with French. You know what? Fair take. Fair take. So far, so good. Played rook d1 instead of taking the knight. Oh. Well, he couldn't take the... Well, yeah, but taking the knight... Yeah, taking the knight had so many tactics. I think you played good, actually. Thank you. The opening was definitely terrible, but... He really did not execute me when he had the chance. Count on European to be racist to the French, am I right? Yes, you are. It's like our calling card, you know? What a crazy position. See, that's why you have to kill people. Do it, Kate. That's why you have to actually just murder people when they give you the chance. If you don't, then they could come back and get you. Have him playing the Caro-Kann. Ooh, how's that been going for you? Caro-Kann's a very strong opening. I often recommend it. It's fine when we do it. Someone's not in the continent doesn't. It's a hate crime. Yes, exactly. You have to be European to hate on the French. I lost to a cheater, dude. That's the worst. Caro-Kann is goated? Yep. Caro-Kann is an inaccuracy. You're an okay. I'm sorry, that was mean. Maybe he knows theory. What's my profile? He's spending a lot of time going for this kingside stuff. It kind of wants me to it kind of makes me want to be provocative. But I'm not going to. I'm going to be a good, well-behaved little schachist. Maybe he just knew his theory. Oh wait, this is a position where you play knight g4, knight h4, isn't it? Yeah, it's too late now, but... Construct or something. Bye, Alco. Bye, Kate. Schachist. Exactly. I know it's not good, but you don't understand how badly I want to castle long and go g4. And just say, okay, let's play chess. Mashki chess. Society can't stop me. I swear you don't need to be a statistical genius to realize the person you're playing is cheating. Well, it's so easy to have a false positive, and I think false positives are far more dangerous than most people give them credit for. I really think false positives could be the death of chess. They aren't right now, but that's because they've been really, like, we've been careful about it. And I think that we might have gone too far in the other direction. People are getting sick of it, and I think it could be a big problem, medium to long term. You're a false positive? Aw, dang it, I got burned. I got roasted. That's what happens, man. You talk too much. They play perfect moves after a blunder. They most likely turned on an engine. I disagree. Why would you turn on an engine after you blunder? That makes no sense. I know a lot of people who play better after they've blundered because they don't feel the pressure anymore. That's a fairly common thing. Mission on accuracy. This is true. Played this very poorly. I'm very dissatisfied with my position. Gotten a lot of bad positions out of the openings today. Telling you, false positives could easily be the death of chess. Do you play better with music or without? With. I'm currently listening to music. The only reason I don't have it on for stream is because I feel pretty strongly about artists' rights, if that makes sense. And so I don't like playing music I don't have permission to. And additionally, I have permission from a bunch of artists, but I haven't set up my music software yet in the way I wanted to. What are you listening? I'm listening to Lahai, the Sampha album. I love that. I'm just this album, man. It's spoken to me. Based on a producer. Oh, that's super cool. Give you permission, Naka? What you? Whose permission? What are you talking about? I don't like the trend of people on Twitch or on YouTube using music without the permission of the people who made the music, because I feel like it's like, okay, it's not yours, right? And the thing is, like, for me, my strongest like the argument for me that's strongest is the point where it's like not a lot, it's somewhat common for a artist's brand to really be equated with the YouTuber who uses their music. And while I don't think that's a bad thing, if I'm an artist, maybe I don't want that for my music. And I feel like the artist should have the permission, should be the ones to make that decision about their own music. A little of everything. A little of everything, Hammer. But if I had to pick, I don't know. I just want something interesting. I haven't really had time to re-listen. They started giving me more work hours, which is good and bad. You know, that sounds like it's been not tab. So like, for example, my favorite album is Untrue, which I feel like as a producer you should know Untrue, right? Is music or opium? True. So my favorite album of all time is Untrue. My second favorite album of all time is Ants from Up There. Yeah, see, I know. My second favorite is Ants from Up There. My third favorite, DCNR mentioned. You know how much I love that album, Rexboy. You know how much I love that album. I really do. So it's Burial, it's Untrue, it's Ants from Up There, and then number 3 is probably The High, which I only started listening to like day before yesterday, but man, it's taken over my space. 808s and Heartbreak. You know what? Fair enough. I'm not the hugest Ye fan. I kind of get it, but it's not like my heart. I haven't listened to 808s and Heartbreak though. I've listened to Graduation, and I've listened to Graduation, and I've listened to what's it called? Obviously, it's My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. Those are the 2 Kanye albums I've listened to. Yeah, Lahai is fascinating. It's so interesting. And you know me, Rexport. You know that interesting for me is the highest compliment I can give anything. This is a very dangerous position. Sheesh. 808s are used so much in rap music today. 808s and Heartbreak. I know it's a classic. I've just never gotten to it yet. I'm currently working through a lot of music, a lot of albums, because I want to understand different genres better, even if they're not genre I normally listen to. So, like, I'm not the biggest Ye fan, but I listen to My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy and Graduation because I want to understand Ye fans, if that makes sense. Sufjan Stevens, I've heard of him. I don't think I've listened to any of his projects. I've heard of Sufjan Stevens. Knight of 7, he could sack a rook. That's the problem. Knight of 7, he can sack. And then he just mates me. I'm not on TikTok, so I wouldn't know. So, like, I have... So my music taste is give me something interesting. That's it. That's my music taste. Interesting. It's called 4th of July. It's about the night his mom died. Oh, that sounds horrible. Horrible in the sense that's horrible for him. It sounds like an amazing song. But yeah, so Lahai, so it's Untrue, Ants from Up There, and Lahai are probably the 3. No, I have not. I haven't gotten to it yet. I haven't listened to anything new recently. Ever since Lahai. Obviously, I listened to Lahai, but I haven't listened to anything after. Is he just going to take the draw? That'd be interesting. I feel like that's incorrect, but it's be interesting. I feel like I'd take with... What do I actually take with here? Hold on a second. I don't actually know. I'm going to say king. That might be dumb, but I'm going to say king. I don't want to allow bishop c3 at any point. And now this is almost certainly rook. Maybe he can take the knight afterwards. Maybe that's the problem. This feels risky, but... And you'll be fine. I don't think I've listened to You'll Be Fine either. But Ants from Up There being favored is based. We've established this. Ants from Up There, good. Ooh. Ooh. Here he has bishop d4. Sheesh. No, but then I have like rook. Yeah, let's just this one. He's just up a piece though. And look at these tripled pawns. How hideous is that? And here loses a rook. Sheesh. It's brutal. It's brutal. Oh, and that's mate. Ooh, that's a pretty mate. Yeah, he's starting mate and to win a rook. How does it lose a rook? Rook e2, rook a1 check, king f2, bishop c4, c5 check. And my king can only go to f3, or I block with rook. If I block with rook, he takes this rook. And if or he takes this rook and then takes this rook. And if I go king f3, I lose f1 concretely. I just want something interesting, you know? Maybe he's actually a producer of X4 and not someone lying on the internet. It's Thug Assassin's turn. Yeah, so really I also really like Cross by Justice. Cross is very good. I also really like Random Access Memories, but I mean, liking Random Access Memories and also Cross is like two of the least hot takes of all time. Everybody loves Random Access Memories and Cross. What else am I thinking? Oh yeah, no, I'm just messing with you. I'm not worried. Did someone text me? Nope. Give me a second. What am I looking for? Ah, yes, I know what I'm looking for. I sent a list of albums in the group chat the other day. Which one's the good one? Quest for Fire. Quest for Fire. It's not close. It's not close. It's really easy to remember because the bad one... Yeah. So, because the bad one is literally called Don't Get Too Close. The bad one literally tells you it's the bad one. And the good one is called Quest for Fire. And it found fire. So the good one tells you it's the good one, and the bad one tells you it's the bad one. Super easy to remember. I really appreciate Skrillex's self-awareness on that one. So I'm going to be honest. I don't listen to much rap. Quest for Fire is a Dark Souls reference. So I'm going to be honest, and this is where I lose people. I don't listen to much rap. I'm not a huge rap head. So because of that, I haven't gotten through the entirety of TPAB, but I didn't enjoy the parts of it I did listen to because I'm just not a rap head. The only rapper I like is MF Doom, and that's because he's MF Doom. You know, I'm a nerd. I have to like MF Doom. It's legally required. However, that being said, I'm also not a Swiftie. I'm also not a Swiftie. And so... Am I wrong, Hammer? Am I wrong? Bro, have you listened to the Fortet remixes of Mad Villainy? What? Come on, like, have you listened? Whatever. Culturally, so I guess something there for a lot of people. Yeah. Have you listened to the Fortet remixes of Mad Villainy? As a producer, you gotta. Come on. Probably haven't. I just forgot. Oh, I love them so much. That's probably like my fourth favorite album, but it's 6 songs, and one of them's kind of bad. They're so good. But Taylor Swift has been a lot more on my radar because he started dating a guy in NFL and I told Kara shut up. Yeah. So I'm not a Swiftie, nor do I really care for most rap. And so with that in mind, I don't really have a horse in the race. And from that perspective, what is the objective of a Grammy? Like, what are the Grammys trying to measure? I guess is the real question. Because it's like, you can't have an award ceremony where you give the award to the most influential album every year, because like every year has so many influential albums. Ah, this is true. Maybe I want to change that one for African American culture. Yeah, but hasn't it been like weirdly not influential? Like nobody's tried to copy it? Not as an insult, but like an interesting thing. I don't know about Taylor Swift in order to okay, so like so influential you can't copy it. You know what? Fair. Again, I would probably, if I were to pick one, I would probably pick T-Pab just because I know how influential it is, and I don't have that same knowledge about Taylor Swift. I'm just saying. Isn't that literally the meaning of influential? It influences many people, so many people try to do stuff that is clearly influenced by it. Oh, Cormac, come on. That's not the point. It's still emotionally manipulative. I don't care who's doing what. Anyway, that's not the point. It could have been emotionally manipulative. It's not, I guess, I don't know if it was, but it could be. And so it's a little weird regardless, but no, those are 2 adults. Yeah, 17's pushing it. I don't know, but 17 and 20 isn't that big of an age gap. I obviously would not. And I don't think, So like, here's the thing. So if we look at the best, like for example, 2007, because it's the first year that came into mind. So if we tried to give a award to the best album or the most influential album of 2007, what will we give it to? Will we give it to In Rainbows, Graduation, or Untrue? Impactful? Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Impactful is different than influential, and I would say that's different. So like, would you give it to In Rainbows, Graduation, or Untrue? Ignoring stuff that I haven't heard, like Sound of Silver, which I heard is good, but I haven't listened to, so I don't know. Probably In Rainbows? That's my point, though. There's no correct answer there. My point is that there's not a correct answer. I would absolutely give it to Untrue, and it's not close. But that's because I don't really like Radiohead, and I didn't like Graduation. I listened through Graduation. I have not listened through In Rainbows, but I've tried listening to a few Radiohead albums, and I just couldn't get into it. And I would argue that Untrue is like ridiculously influential. But here's the thing. My point here isn't that it should be given to Untrue. My point here is that there isn't a correct answer here because all 3 were crazy influential in their own genres. You never should pretend that the case the best World 14-15, the World Force now is better. I disagree with that, Cormac. I really strongly disagree with that. It's been shown many times that neuroplasticity isn't gone until you're like 25. And I'm not saying you're not an adult till you're 25. I'm just saying there is absolutely an argument for you being an adult after 14. And I think that argument is sound. Rexpor's got a point. It's faulty appeal to, I'm not sure, that's appeal to history, I guess? I'm never grew up. That sounds like Kanye. Think about the emotional maturity a 14 or 15-year-old has. It's crazy. The dream situation? I know a little, and I want to watch the video because I want to know more about it, but I haven't yet. I plan to, but I haven't had the time. I'm probably going to turn it on and listen to it like a podcast. That's what I did with the completionist stuff. Which I have some takes about that one. I have some takes. Anyway, but my point is, so in Rainbows, Graduation, or Untrue, there's not a correct answer as to which one of those gets Album of the Year 2007 because all three were influential in their own genres. True is far better. Source? Don't care about Dream because it makes bad music? Based. I would say that's a survivorship bias sort of thing, Cormac. The ones who survived had better emotional maturity, but I would argue that most didn't make it. Good survival of the fittest? Ooh. Ooh. No. See, that's where we differ. That's where we differ. I have a much higher opinion of human life than that. A much higher value of human life. Well, yeah, but obviously, Dream has been crazy harassed. Like, I mean, that I didn't even say that because I felt like that goes without saying. Like, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I don't love Dream because I think he's irresponsible with his fan base. However, come on, guys. I don't think survival of the fittest is something that we should apply to humans. I would die in a hunter-gatherer society for many reasons, including my lack of hand-eye coordination and my propensity to get overwhelmed with a lot of sensory stimulus. Google Doc came out after vid, regurgitating same information that's already been disproven. I'm curious. I'll educate myself. I just haven't had the time yet. Where's that knight going? G5 does not accomplish anything. And I would argue that 14 being an adult was never a good thing. Like, it was always out of pure necessity. It's like the argument that therapy is bad because we didn't have any mental disorders before the modern generation, you know? It's like, well, yeah, you're not wrong in the technical aspect of it, but there's like a reason. It also didn't track them. That's my point. And the people who had any mental struggles would just be put in an asylum. Would you subscribe to? Oh, okay. So, okay. In that case, I don't mean to be rude, but I don't see how I can interface with that sort of take because I think it's so very clearly so clearly a fallacy that I'm not sure how someone could sincerely have it. Like, I don't mean that as like, oh, you're dumb. I legitimately don't understand. So that's my stream, and Hammer. Welcome. Mental health is barely real. Yeah. Mental health is barely real. I find that difficult. Two pieces for the rook. It's good. I think we can do better though. We go here and he pushes e5. I'm gonna go two pieces for the rook. Never really applied here. Oh, that always is. I always have no idea what I'm doing. That's the fun. That's the fun part. Is you never know where you're going to get. It's a mixed bag. These Jester streams are so great. I appreciate it. It's tied up in a relationship with others, our place in society. Partially. Actually, largely. I will give you largely. Speaking about one's mental health, absent of those factors, just largely contribute to people's feeling having more mental health. Actually, I agree with everything you said there. Everything in that message, I agree with. Yeah, I completely agree with that one, Cormac. However, I don't think that makes mental health barely real. I think that makes mental health not well talked about and maybe deceptive even, but barely real, I think, is a stretch. I agree with that. Like, that entire message I agree with. Almost wholly wrong? Maybe. The relationships part's absolutely true. However, a lot of the things you go to therapy for are things that somewhat or entirely prevent you from making normal, healthy human connections with other people, which is why you go to therapy to begin with. The goal of therapy for, I would say one of the primary goals of healthy therapy is to be able to sustain and create those relationships, not to replace them. And I would say there is a lot of therapy out there that does try to replace it, and I would argue that that is not good. However, I think you're throwing the baby out with the bathwater if we try to argue that all of therapy is that way. And I don't like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Can I just throw the baby? Yes, you can throw the baby. That's acceptable. Just keep the bathwater. We should always save the baby whenever possible. No. Throw out the baby, keep the bathwater. Punt the child. How do you want to make an animation of it? Hey. Hey. I wouldn't mind. The baby poo in the bathwater first? Nah, I think that lowers the resale value. Welcome to my humble abode. This is definitely a very rational train of thought we're having. Highlights ever get leaked? You know, I'm getting drafted in the what? Oh. Yeah, see. Rex Boar's going places. Those places are prison, but they're places. Gave the baby pay to win abilities. Hasn't that always been a thing? Like, modern medicine is pretty pay to win. Oh wait, I totally could have played F4. What am I doing with my life? It is a game, and I'm gonna win because I'm a gamer. Ooh, that's a pretty checkmate. RNG base, they should make the odds better. I know, right? Or at least allow for some sort of RNG manip, as it currently stands. Life is a game, and I'm a gamer, and I'm going to win because I'm a gamer. Exactly. Can I play better this time? I think, yeah. I don't know. We'll see. I want to look through this game again. I think your openings have gotten a lot better first off. You're getting out of the openings in good positions a lot of the time. I was working on the wrong thing. I know. The devs are patching out all the fun glitches. My DM God so he can fix France. Now that needs to go on a t-shirt. That needs to go on a t-shirt. Can we get the French patch? Get a friend to design a graphic D about it? Yeah, exactly. France could only be fixed by being nuked off the face of the earth. Nah, that wouldn't fix it either. That would just make him a martyr. Bishop e3, bishop takes e3, queen takes e3. So this is a completely rational position. Completely normal. You're doing great. You're doing good, lad. All of this is good. Now, bishop takes f3 is the first thing I disagree with, okay? Because once you play bishop takes f3, in this position, it's 2 knights and a bishop versus 2 knights and a bishop. Suddenly, after this, it's knight and bishop versus 2 knights. Typically, in these sorts of open positions, the knight and the bishop are considered slightly better than the 2 knights. Because often the 2 knights trip over each other, and they don't have strengths that work together. This bishop takes isn't losing, but I think it makes your position harder to play. And I should have even taken with pawn, because that cuts off some squares for your knight. I mean, I'm not even sure. I could have done either way, honestly. But it doesn't matter. Queen d4. Okay. And then queen d4 also doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because you're giving me a move I already want to play with tempo. Never let your opponent play a good move with tempo. There's no reason. Can't be martyr if everyone hates you. That's definitely not true. So I get to play a good move with tempo. That's lovely. Oh, magnificent. If you want to go here, I think this would be a better route. Just don't give me rook d1. I would still play rook d1 anyway, but queen x b2. And now we go into this endgame. And this just loses a piece. Okay, so you should have taken this. You should have absolutely taken this. And then I would have gone a takes b3, and then we would go rook f d8. And we wouldn't have got, and we would have gotten something resembling this position. And then you have rook b8 at the end to win this pawn back. In this position, it's not clear. I would probably say black is for choice because you basically have an extra pawn. Rook d7, a5. Then rook a7, d8. But the way you did it here lets me keep my connected passers on the. Rook e1, king h2, rook a1, bishop e4, rook d8, bishop d3, king g7, king g2, king h6. So what I forgot here is that I can play f4 anyway. I forgot this was a pin. I was like, oh, I can just do this. Anyway. But the way I did it was fine too. And then you had to go king h6. And hope you survive here. This is still very, very bad for you, but yeah. So you did fine until we start transitioning into the endgame. Then you lost a piece. The knight being centralized looks strong, but it gets trapped. It can't be supported. This is a strong square for the knight, but you can't support that square. Now, if you go with this knight, now we're having a conversation. Because even though this, but the problem is this allows me to go rook c7. So the move should probably be one of the rooks to either c8 or d8. I guess you can't go to c8 because I take this pawn. So you have to go to d8. I would probably play... Can I play rook c7 here? I think I can. And then you go rook a b8. And you play king f8, you play b6, you solidify, and then you play something like rook c8, this other rook, or maybe a knight e5 and then f4 at some point. You have to fix your weaknesses first. Remember how I played? Yeah, you did well. You just went for the wrong plan. Yes, and? Is that even a glitch? I feel like that's an intentional feature. Maybe it was originally a glitch and they kept it in because they thought it was funny. You know how devs do that sometimes? It's a debuff. Is see what I mean? Well, if you chose the wrong plan, what else am I supposed to say? You chose the right plan, you just lost. I mean, most of the time, it just works. It just works. Bro, I played Starfield this year. It's the first Bethesda game I've ever played. Anxiety debuff. I got like a triple dose of that one, man. Ridiculous. I love E3 in these positions. It's very funny. And your nemesis in my club, 2010 USCF. I know. I'm going to play like New Vegas and maybe Skyrim, but I haven't gotten to them yet. I'm still working through Half-Life 2. Then once I finish that, I'm going to be playing Dishonored 2, and then when I finish that, I'm probably going to pick up a newer game, like Alan Wake 2, or Dead Space remake, or Last of Us Part 1. I have officially beat every single Valve game based. I recently just got my first gaming PC, so I'm working through them. I made a list actually. My Steam thing just dropped, and so I made a list of all the games I played this year and how I feel about all of them. I think I said I played like I finished 14 games and no 15 games, and then or finished or played. If it's a game that you can't finish, like a roguelike or something, I played a lot of it. And then there are 4 games that I started but couldn't finish because I didn't like them. Is it Valorant, boys? Let me just disown them. I'm surprised you haven't already. Starfield is literally what I put as the worst game I played this year. So I think that says a lot about society. Like 4,500 hours in CS? Sheesh! So you're actually good at video games. Starfield I put as the worst game I played this year. And I kind of stand by that one. I don't think there's really anything redeeming in that game. And I think most people who say there is something redeeming in that game are coping based off of previous games that were good. Sure you can. Keep telling yourself that. It's an investment, Mom. Okay, anyway. E3 here is crazy. Imagine using Opera GX. Like, bro, it's literally based off Chromium. It's Chrome with a billion extensions. I don't understand it. I don't understand like how people sincerely advertise it. I'm not saying I don't know if it's bad per se. Maybe the features are useful, but my point is I don't understand how you advertise it as being more performant than Chrome. It's like literally Chrome with a bunch of extensions. It can only be less performant. Uses Opera GX? Ah, okay. Well, the point is too far gone. You're a Chromium with a billion extensions. Yeah. RAM limiter and VPN? But like, if you want a RAM limiter, just use a browser which uses less RAM. Like, Thorium or something. And then VPN, I don't know, I trust the Opera GX VPN. Maybe I should, but I don't. I'm currently on Firefox right now. I'm probably going to switch to something else at some point, but Firefox is currently working pretty well, and I like it. But I'm too far gone in the other direction. I am a based Linux user, so I'm too far gone in the other way, you know. Bishop d3, 6. Okay, so far this is very reasonable. Rook. Is it not bishop g7 here? Okay, bishop g7 is eminently bad. What gamings would you be sacrificing? Valorant's like the biggest thing you're missing, I find, as I know of. I mean, CS:GO works on Linux, does it not? I played all my games on Linux. Yeah, CS2 is literally native. Let me check. Yeah, okay. So that's fair. That's fair. There's a reason not to switch. I mean, Grand Theft Auto 5 works in general, but 5M. No reason to switch. Just use Nobara and you'll never have to worry about it. Lutris lets you. Well, there you go. Boom. Just use Nobara. That way you don't have to think about it. And Nobara actually, in a lot of games, outperforms Windows because of the lower CPU and RAM overhead. They did some tests recently. It's pretty cool. Nobara is a fork of Fedora made by the guy who runs Proton GE. Fortnite, I don't know if Fortnite works. Fortnite might have a problem. Let me check. Yeah, so Fortnite, I think Epic is purposely killing it. Not playable, yeah. Fortnite doesn't work because Epic intentionally kills it because they don't want it to work on Steam Deck, which is so hilarious. Don't know how I'd run. Wait, it works? If it works, then it'll run fine. The problem is getting... No. I used to. They turned off the setting. It's because of the anti-cheat. They use Easy Anti-Cheat, which is an Epic thing, and it has a setting that says compatibility with Proton. And they literally turned it off. There is no developer reason. The only reason they don't want to work on Linux is because they don't want to, because they don't want to give it to the Steam Deck. That's literally the only reason. It's a decision. Epic Easy Anti-Cheat has a toggle for if you want to work on Linux or not. A toggle in the actual anti-cheat software. You could, but I mean, why play Fortnite to begin with? Bad game. Next question. No, but I mean, just like install Nobara on a partition of your hard drive and see if you like it. I mean, what's there to lose? I love Linux customization. Again, get Nobara KDE edition because KDE is better than GNOME. You heard it here first, and I'm right. So get Nobara KDE edition and then move on with your life. It works. It has all the graphics drivers and all that pre-installed. It has Lutris pre-installed. It has Steam pre-installed. You don't have to think about any of it. It'll just work for gaming. It's designed for that. Trying to brainwash a different friend of mine. I don't even think Linux has the original. Rook g8, h takes g5, h takes g5, knight c3, knight c6. This is this is the stuff I can't comprehend when Cormac plays it. It's like so scary. What I'm currently learning is I'm trying to figure out the g6 line here and just play bishop g7 and then knight f6, which is cowardly. I will leave that as something for the audience at home to figure out. No, Proton is legitimately crazy. I have just not even thought about it, and I've had problems with like one game in the entirety of my Linux gaming journey. Isn't that what Levy recommends? I don't remember, but Queen E7, Queen F3, Queen G4, Queen D1, E5, D5, Knight D8. Again, this is just crazy because the fact that this is not completely winning for white, despite that the fact that all of black's pieces feel completely tied in and blocked in their position, is insane. It's probably because of just the kingside space advantage. Knight F7, and you have a clear way of improving your position. So despite the fact that your position's bad right now, white doesn't have enough space to take advantage of it, and you have this long-term pressure. It's like a King's Indian sort of thing. 6, bishop b3, b5. Okay, see, now I think this is a little bit too bold, because now you're going to run out of places to put your king. Right now, if you castle long, you don't have any weaknesses anymore. He's not going to throw his pawns down this way, so you are just playing with better space on the queen side, or the king side here, with the king side being where the attack is going to be. So in this position, what can I say, End? I'm just the hippie nerd stereotype. Pieces where? Well, yeah, but if you're ever afraid, you can do something like this. I mean, this has got to be it though, because he's not going to push pawns there. His pieces are from his own pawns. But see, now your king's in the center, and if your opponent breaks the center, you're going to be in big trouble. Which, if I were him, I would be trying to do that ASAP. Don't know how easy it is to do, but it looks dangerous. King b1 is an easy first move to play. F3, sure. And see, this is part of the problem. You're immediately opening everything up. And so listen. Instead of putting your king where you don't have any pieces, you try to attack where you don't have any pieces. I sense a slight problem with this plan. Genius. Surely. Next level intellect right here. No, but seriously, it's hard to find plans in these positions. That's why I find them difficult myself. And so I make fun, but just try to take on g4 with the rook. Yeah, but like, then what? Your king is still stuck in the center forever and all time. Miss knight a2. Knight a2 is very nice and is a huge problem. Because look at this knight on c6. Ugh. Yeah, and now it's over. Your pieces are still kind of stuck doing basically nothing, and now he gets in. Takes, and then like this. Huge problems. Geometry Dash 2.2 is out too. I've never played Geometry Dash in my life, believe it or not. Just give me this. Don't need anything else. Knight c3. White's up a pawn and has the compensation for the pawn. Music's going in a good direction. This year was a little bit weak for music, not gonna lie. Little weak. 7th Stitch dropped, which was pretty exciting. But the first EP was a little weak for me, but I love the second EP. Is that a reference to what I think it is, Hammer? Anyway. This year was a little weak for music. But 7th Stitch dropped, which was exciting for a nerd like me. However, next year's looking pretty hype. Because we got Rivals 2 and World of Goo 2 coming out next year. World of Goo 2 is coming out next year. And it's made by the same people who created the first one. Like the same combo of teams. Resigns? Yeah. Yeah. Again, you were doing pretty well. Like the chess wasn't perfect. As in the game, Endhammer. It's coming out next year by the same team. It's 2D Boy and the Tomorrow Corporation. Next year. So next year is going to have... I know! They have a website. Let me link it. I don't know if you've replayed World of Goo recently, but that game has aged like a fine wine. Taking on D5? I disagree. And this is where my basically spiritual approach to chess comes in. I think that B5 is when you were done. This is where my chess philosophy starts to hit. B5, to me, is the beginning of the end because it's the start of the wrong plan. Even though the position is holdable after B5, it's the wrong direction. There are multiple paths, and you turned on the wrong path. You can still hack your way through the woods to the right path, but in chess, if we're playing as humans, we usually stay on the path we go down. And so you chose what was very, not clearly, but what in hindsight is very clearly the wrong direction. And so rook b5, b8, all this was just a continuation of that. Now takes on d5 was the tactical end. Takes on d5 is when it ended from a you're now completely losing perspective. But already this position was going to be very, very difficult to play. Like something like knight d8 is insane. Knight d8 is psychotic. Knight d8, knight b7, knight c5. So GTA 6, World of Goo 2, and Rivals 2. Is GTA 6 2024 or 2025? Isn't it 2025? Yeah, knight d8, and knight d8's plan is to get to... What's Q status? That. Knight d8 to b7 to c5 is the plan. Right? So that's what I mean. That's so much not in your mind when you're playing this. No problem. You can do it yourself, Wonder. Exclam who, and you'll do it. I'm so excited for Rivals 2. I donated to the Kickstarter. I'm ready. Mid purely because overhyped. I've never played a GTA, so I wouldn't be surprised. You know what that means? The fun line. I've heard the name before. Yeah, I've definitely heard the name, and I looked into it at some point, but I don't think I ever tried it. Interesting. It looks like a cool concept, but don't know. I feel like all those sort of gimmicks of creativity in games is a little gimmicky because it ends up being either terrible as a spectator or boring because there's a very clear meta. Starfield situation where we talked about so much people build this expectation that the game can't deliver on. That wasn't the problem with Starfield. Starfield was just a bad video game. I actually don't know. That's very weird. I legitimately don't know. I wonder what happened. Wonder isn't even in. Well, he was in before. He's just not in anymore because he was kicked because he was taken out of the queue because it's his turn. It didn't make much sense for you to be in here before Wonder. I'm not going to lie because Wonder did join the queue before you did. Not necessarily bad. I think it was bad. I think Starfield was legitimately bad. Need big sleep. Oh, very tired. Then go sleep. I don't think Wonder is here. Or no, Wonder, it looks like he's here. Hey, Wonder, it's your turn. The queue lied. I don't know why the queue lied, but I disagree, Rexport. I think the Starfield was a legitimately bad video game. Actively bad. With very few, maybe even no redeeming qualities. You got it. That's one of my more interesting takes. Again, I said in my list, maybe I should use the Bethesda experience. Maybe. But I don't want to try to do 100% run of life. Same, but there's just so many side quests that are so boring. But I'm not saying you're doing this, Rexplore, but I don't like it when people say, oh, that's just the Bethesda experience, when it's just an objectively bad game design choice. Or like the game is buggy. Like, how the Bethesda game experience, my guy, that's a bad video game. Don't know. I haven't played any other Bethesda games. I do believe that there are good ones, but I'm just... I don't mind bugs, but give me something else to make up for it. Like, I can put up with bugs, but there needs to be something else in the video game. Starfield, what did Starfield have? The writing was mid. It wasn't amazing, it was fine, it was serviceable. The gunplay was actively bad. The art direction was middling. Like, it was fine, but fine for 8 years ago. Traversal was boring. Level design didn't exist. Quest design was uninspired. Like, legitimately, what did... No, but, like, what did Starfield have that is better than bad? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, I can't think of anything that Starfield did better than bad. I know, but that doesn't even make God. I assumed that was a non sequitur. Like, I'm serious. I'm trying. I played. How many hours did I play of Starfield? Like 10? Fallout 4 and back was fine. I've heard that even Fallout 4 was mixed. I don't know how true that is, but that's what I've heard. Oh, that was good. Again, I'm going to try out New Vegas, and I'm going to try out Skyrim. Most likely. Probably New Vegas first. But... either way, I haven't played Fallout, so I wouldn't know. That's why I'm talking about Starfield, because something I've experienced, so I can have an opinion, if that makes sense. No, I have not. Should I? But I've got some hot takes about game. So again, I don't know of anything. Maybe there is something that I didn't see or that I forgot about, but I legitimately can't think of anything that Starfield did well. Or again, not even well, better than bad. That's the bar, is better than bad. Not anymore, it isn't. Used to be a hot take. Not anymore. Nowadays, it's like a lukewarm take at best. Well, that's your first mistake, going on Twitter. I don't like Andrew Tate at all. But again, that's another very not hot take. Boring take. I don't even necessarily agree with that. Oh, I missed the fact the bishop attacks. No, but that's what's dangerous about Andrew Tate. No. I disagree. That's what's dangerous about Andrew Tate is the fact that half of it is nonsense. Not half. 80% of it's nonsense. The other 20% is stuff that isn't popular to say, but that is not necessarily as wrong. Oh yeah, absolutely. But it's not just 7th graders. I know some Andrew Taters. Is that what they're called? Andrew Taters? Tater. Like a potato. Oh. What do they call themselves? I'm not going to call them Sigma males. Because they're not Sigma males. That's exactly the interesting part. Top G's. Thank you, Top G's. Thank you. Thank you. I blame lag. Excellent name, by the way. I think I said that last time you were here. Oh, absolutely, Cormac. I completely agree with that. But that's the problem. Yeah, but I think part of the problem is that we look at those kids, not Andrew, not Tate, maybe Tate, but not I'm not talking about him right now. We look at the kids, those sorts of kids, and we're like, oh, what a weird kid, and shame, right? You aren't attracted to the message of Andrew Tate if you're not, how do I put this? Deeply depressed and socially anxious. Nobody with a healthy social circle and relationship to their peers. I donate to an orphanage every month. It's not that special. Okay, technically I donate to a day center providing therapy for special needs orphans. You're not special. Technically it's not an orphanage. It's a day center. That doesn't make me immune to criticism. I don't think I know what that is. Andrew Tate talk over? No, I have so much more to say. Again, I think part of the problem is how unempathetic we are to people who are attracted to Andrew Tate's message. No. I'm not saying everyone, don't understand, don't get me wrong. Not saying every socially anxious person is attracted to Tate's message. I'm saying everyone attracted to Tate's message is a socially anxious person. Backwards. Well, there you go. Evidently, that's a guy that exists. Don't have an opinion. Yeah, this would have been better, and then I can try to play like F5. Kijiji's king. Interesting game. These are positions I don't get often. It's a very creative approach to the position. I think I must have equalized at some point, but... Mr. Bay it's just because he's popular, man. Everyone gets a ton of hate. Not saying that justifies it, I'm just saying I don't understand why people are surprised by it. This is the best one I got. It's a very nice game. Very interesting stuff. Well, like, that's like one of the things I most strongly disagree with about Tate's message. Rexplore. You're preaching to the choir on that one. You are preaching to the choir. And I think he's very much, he's like one of the most destructive people in modern society, Andrew Tate. That's one of my Tate takes. Multiple wives. Okay, but that's not what he's saying, Hammer. He's not saying, ooh, I'm Muslim, so I think that having a relationship with multiple women is a good idea. No, that's not what he's saying. That would actually... I would still think it's probably a bad idea, but at least be coherent. Okay, what's your... Gotcha. Can't find someone with that name. I find two people with similar names, but... I know, that's what I mean. That's not having multiple women. Which is, again, for the record, I still think it's a bad idea. Yeah, go for it. Again, which is... that's definitely and very clearly a bad idea to encourage in society. Thank you, dude, for the follow. Wonder why your name didn't come up. Weird. Okay, let's see how you handle this. I'm gonna call Cap and play this. Are there title players who get stuck? No. Again, I think Tate is one of the most destructive people, like, in the modern world. The number of young guys he's poisoned. Is to some degree kind of impressive. Probably your X4. Tate, that's the thing, but the good takes almost just exist to make his bad takes more stomachable. or easier to defend. That makes him more dangerous. It's far more dangerous for him to have some good takes and mostly bad takes than it is for him to have entirely bad takes. Far more dangerous. I'm not afraid of someone with only bad takes. No, I do not. Your king is very misplaced. I don't know. Ooh, I'll take that. Okay. Fairly popular genre, if I recall correctly. So we trade knights, which is good because I'm down material. I'm up material, and now I'll just queen this. There we go. Шах. И па сега матки давам. Now I go here. You're being annoying. What's the fastest way of doing this? This. Take completion takes. Okay, so here's my interesting thought. This is probably wrong. Probably wrong. However, I think it's an interesting interpretation of the facts we have right now. And I think it is a good food for thought. So I've listened to the interview twice. And I've watched all the videos submitted, all the videos put out by Mudahar and by Carl. Okay? And I think, and also the completionist apology, not apology video. So I think an interesting possible interpretation of the information we have publicly is that he legitimately didn't know about the charity not donating the money until 2021 or 2, whatever he claimed. But then afterwards, he chose to hide it because his family, specifically his father, was the one who made that decision. And he didn't want to destroy both his reputation, his dad's reputation, and the legacy relating to his mom. And so he kept the entire thing under wraps. Which is an equally bad moral failure, if not a worse moral failure. So this is not a completionist innocent take. This is a interesting way of going about it. Changes anything? Oh yes, does not change anything even if it's true. He is equally guilty, maybe more so. Because at that point, there's no claim of, oh, I didn't think I was doing anything wrong. So it might be worse than the current narrative for the completionist. Yes, it's still a completionist bad take. I said this on the Discord. The take is not completionist good. That there's no take that is not completely contradict any evidence we have that's completionist good. This is a different and new kind of completionist bad take. Because if you listen to the interview, he asks multiple times for his family left out of it. He says he has no correlation to anything that is not Indie Land, so he's purposely separating himself from the golf tournament. And I think that the completionist disagrees with the way the charity was run, and specifically the golf tournament is run. And in 2022 is when he found out about it, and got into a fight basically with his dad. And the conclusion for him was, okay, I'm going to hide it and it'll go away. Hello, Void. I'm going to hide it and it'll go away. But it definitely did. He said that. He was very clear about this the entire time. Yeah, he did. But you can tell he's panicking. In everything, he's panicking. He's completely panicked. None of this is planned. Very clearly, there's no coherence. There's no cohesion. This doesn't make any sense. This isn't the actions of a scammer who got caught. This is action of someone who's panicking. Now, he still scammed people. Again, this is not a completionist good take. He's doing okay. But he is clearly freaking out. But he also never addressed the golf tournament and anything else. Like, he really was avoiding talking about the golf tournament. And he mentioned whenever he talks about the charity, the open hand. That's what I mean. He's panicking. B5 is bad, but I was so shocked by B5 that I didn't even think about it being a move, and so I played knight c3 anyway. I basically mentally pre-moved knight c3, which is a mistake on my part. He was clearly panicking in that video and trying to avoid it becoming a big thing. He very clearly cares a lot about his image, which is why I think the narrative of it being his dad's idea and him going along with it because he didn't want to ruin his and his family's and his mom's image isn't such an interesting one. Because clearly his motivation is his image this entire time. Now, whether you can argue if he self-justified it to be my image because I'm doing good things, I think he probably believes that, but whether he believes it is irrelevant to whether or not it's true. You just take the pawn? 100% you just take the pawn. It's another pawn. The completionist. The whole charity scam there. I have a unique perspective as someone whose family runs a nonprofit. But man, this is probably going to stink a lot for us. Because it's going to break a lot of people's trust in charities. Oof. Which Zoomers already didn't trust charities. Which I'm not going to say that's for bad reason. But I never trust charities. Again, that's what I mean. But it's going to make it even worse. I'm not even saying you're wrong. I'm just saying, you know. Oh, no, yeah. I never thought they were acting in bad faith or for drama. I really did not think that of either one of them at any point. And I think, and plus, I always hate the takes of, oh, they're just doing this for drama, because that's not a statement that they're wrong. Like, their motivation isn't irrelevant, but it doesn't change the facts. So the motivation doesn't matter as long as the facts were accurate. Like, they could be wrong, they could be right, and also motivated by drama. That's possible. When he doesn't use money for what they're for. Oh, yeah. It's like anything else, Void. You can find the good ones out there. It just takes some digging. Using bad? No, yeah, I hate those. This is going to be very capitalist of me, but I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with making money. Regardless of what you're making money from. As long as you're honest about it and you're providing value somewhere, what's the big deal? Trusting someone with it? Well, yeah, that's a completely valid approach, Void. But there are some things that are better run by an actual charity. I mean, very obvious example for me is my family's nonprofit we have. It'd be very difficult for people in the States to run a day center in Macedonia. Do it, Hammer. I thought you already left. Thank you. Appreciate you stopping by. Yes, that's why I sound so heckin' American. Accent just spawned in my head. Fair enough. As a nonprofit? Yeah. That's why we moved to Macedonia. We moved to Macedonia to start our nonprofit. Investigative journalists. See, and investigative journalists don't do their work for free, so why should YouTubers, you know? Well, even if they did do their work for free. Thank you. Yeah, which, I mean, again, like, I'd rather them get paid that way they do something, you know? But, again, them monetizing videos, if the again, the thing about, even if there were an ethical issue, let's assume for a second, for the sake of argument, that there is an ethical issue with getting paid for what's a nonprofit for, a day center for special needs orphans in North Macedonia. Like, we have like 6 sessions a week where we take kids from the group homes in the city where I live, take them out into one of the villages so they can get fresh air. We have a floor time play specialist. We have a physical therapist. My mom specializes in trust-based relational interventions. And so we take them out, we, you know, smiles, love, crafts. You teach them chess? Nah. Most of them would be unable because they're special needs. Oh gosh, that's horrible, homies. So sorry. I'm only tangentially related to the charity. I help with some events. I donate, but otherwise it's run mostly by my parents. I used to do a bunch of lawn maintenance at our day center, but especially in the wintertime, I don't really, and I haven't for a while. Gerard is so funny. That's such a funny tweet. Even if they didn't talk to Gerard. So, here's the thing. Again, back to what I was saying. Rexport, if we assume, let's assume it's an unforgivable sin of evil to make money off of that sort of investigative journalism. Let's assume that. Let's make that assumption, okay? It's unforgivable evil to make money off of investigative journalism. Why is that wrong? 2 people can be evil at the same time. There can be more than one evil person in the universe. Right. There can be 2 evil people in the universe. Most dramas don't have a good guy and a bad guy. You know what I mean? That's pretty rare. So even if Carl and Muda were both evil and horrible people who should be lynched, that still doesn't make them wrong. You know what I mean? He sacrificed the Rook. Nah, you sacrificed the king. That's what he sacrificed. Oh no, he did sacrifice the Rook. Never mind, you're right. You were just 2 steps ahead of me, Ahmed. Pardon me, you were right. He did sacrifice the Rook. It's not just a bad cope, it is. But I hate that argument because I see it so often. The argument of, oh, they're evil, therefore they're wrong. Evil and wrong have no correlation. There's no connection between evil and wrong. They could be they're evil, therefore they're lying. But that was never the point. Because all the information they stated was public. Exactly. Yeah, I agree with that one. Evil equals right? Hold on a second. Wait, that's not my point. Hold on a second. Well, dang it. That's what I get for trying to have a rational take on the internet. Wait, let him cook. No, do not let him cook. Step away from the stove, put down the spatula. May I ask some advice? For sure. I played London, and I've lately noticed more and more people respond to King's Indian, and it's very good against London. Right. How can I counter when I notice they play King's Indian against my London? D4, knight f6, knight f4, g6. I'm puzzled. So if your objective is to learn as little theory as possible, you can just play developing rational moves. I don't know what your elo is, Talos. Were you higher rated? I don't remember. Anyway, you can, first off, step one is this first prime play in London. 1400. Okay, perfect. Even better. So, first thing you can do, first option, is you could just play rational normal developing moves and not worry about openings. That, especially against a King's Indian, where black is probably has the same plan. By playing just normal moves, you can get into a rational, reasonable position, move on with your life, play chess, and then beat them fair and square without having to worry about an opening. Because especially like King's Indian versus London, you're not going to lose for lack of theory. So that's a completely fair, valid approach. Against King's Indian event 7 against London, you're supposed to put the light square bishop on e2 instead of d3. That's all I know. And that is also correct. I blame lag is also correct. But that's what I mean. Like, that's not theory, that's an idea. Because the whole point is when he has the pawns on these 3 squares, this bishop does nothing. So the bishop is better put on e2. Because on e2 it has more of a future than on d3. Because d3 normally, h7 pawn is weak. However, with that little pawn hut he's got, this is a rock. This is a stone. And your bishop is munching a stone. There's a lot of nuances to the they push in the center and fork. Well, that as well, but I'm fairly certain you also push e4 in a lot of lines in London. So the push and the fork is a threat, but I'm fairly certain you get to play, because you get to play e4 in some lines as well. Yeah, but you do usually push e5, and so it prevents the fork as well. But I'm just thinking from piece quality, because I don't care about the fork. I'll see it coming and I'll move the piece. You know what I mean? But I'm thinking more from what the piece does. And so even if we go d3, c2, the bishop does less on c2 than it does on e2. Keep us updated, homies, because that's pretty darn important. I can beat you on 500. Oh, I've been beat by much lower rated people than 500. Trust me, I'm a little unreliable. Need to work on it? Yeah, but so you don't need an opening counter to every opening in order to play well, if that makes sense. However, let's see. Something... So we're saying, you said like d4, knight f6, knight f3. What was the specific move order you gave? Knight f4, yeah. Knight f6, g6. Hello, Snail. I'm meeting tattoo artists on Wednesday. Hey, that's so sick. So, there's a million things you can do here. And that's kind of the problem. Bishop f4. So let's say something like this. So there's a million things you can do. One of them just most rational. Not as good with the King's Indian? Not really, because the bishop doesn't do a whole lot, because he's going to play d6, and then this bishop's munching on a stone, so it's just going to get tempoed by e5. Right, because if we start playing normal London moves, then like d6, bishop e2, knight fd7, h3. I'm just going to play rook e8, and then after like castles or something, then e5, probably not right now, but at some point. You can't play e5 right now, but so you prep it a little longer. Or you can play c5. c4? Sure, but I'm assuming a normal London setup just for the sake of argument. Just for the sake of the memes. Now b6 is probably better. b6, knight bd7, then like bishop e7, or maybe e5 now. Probably e5 now, because now the queen is no longer on the d file. It should be, homies. Because now the queen is no longer attacking the queen distantly along the d file. So either way, the point is the bishop gets tempoed. So the bishop isn't as productive on that square as it usually is. Usually do bishop d3. So bishop d3 already is not amazing for a few reasons, which Void mentioned. First off, it doesn't hit this pawn is not a target. This pawn is never a target in these lines. And so because of that, the bishop lacks its main target. And the second problem is if I push e5 and you move the bishop, I get to push e4 and fork your pieces, which is an annoying threat that always exists. So the bishop on d3 is, one, not doing anything, and two, a target. In general, there are exceptions, but in general, putting a bishop on the diagonal of this g-pawn is not very good, in general, because it doesn't really do anything. It doesn't do anything, and in this line specific, it's target, but just in general, it doesn't do anything. The same principle applies in reverse. If they play like b6, then you really wouldn't want to put a bishop on e3. Let's say something dumb, like, I don't know, let's say, I don't even know, man. You typically wouldn't want this bishop on e3. e3 is slightly misplaced. The same reason. Now, e3 is not as bad in this line because he's playing c for c5, and so having the bishop on the same diagonal is not as bad. But even then, you would still probably play bishop f4 over bishop e3. Right? Because this diagonal just isn't a useful diagonal. This just isn't a useful diagonal because of this incredibly strong pawn on b6. This pawn is far weaker and far more important. Right, so that's the first thing. But this is what I mean when I say principal chess. This, when Black plays the King's Indian against London, he's basically using your own tools against you. He's saying, okay, you want to play a non-committal opening that requires little theory to know, but leads to equal-ish positions where we just kind of play chess and hope we don't draw. Two can play at that game. You know what I mean? It's a non-committal opening off. It is. And so you can either learn a specific line to beat the King's Indian. That's totally fine. That's a valid way of going about it. Or you can just try to outplay your opponent and just play reasonably and just play principally. Now, the principles will change your opening setup. Your opening setup will have to change because this position is very different from the normal London. But you can still do it. You could just play knight c3 and provoke d5. Because after knight c3, they have to play d5, so you don't play e4. They have to prevent e4. And they waste enough time, they have to play d5. And so you could go for something like this. And go for like a weird transposition into a kind of Jobava. Okay, I'll listen. Yeah, and this is a fine way of going about it because now it's no longer a King's Indian. But that's if you just want, no problem, man. That's why I'm here. Hey, d4. So like this is completely valid because knight c3 is pretty simple. Knight c3 is saying, okay, you have to play d5. If you do not play d5, I'm going to play e4, and now we get a perk rather than a King's Indian. Opinion on the perk? Totally playable. I don't like it because I don't like having to deal with those sorts of positions, but it's very practical. I recommend it for people who don't mind playing down space and want to learn those sorts of piece play dynamics. Void is suggesting a song. So like this sort of thing. And so they kind of have to play d5 to prevent that. But now you can play bishop f4, and now you've got the normal Jobava London stuff going on. It's not going to be amazingly wonderful win you games, but you know, you could play it. Then like knight a6, and then like I'm pretty sure that e3 castles, and then you play like c4 or something. Something like this. Not in this position because he has c5, I guess, but whatever. You play chess. Any good? I'm still getting in. I'm still listening. Waiting. You just kind of play chess. And now you provoke c3, and this knight's kind of misplaced. But even this, you know, there's theory here for sure. But I don't know it. You just kind of play chess. But that's not necessary. You can just play your normal opening and play bishop e2 instead of bishop d3. Maybe prepare to push an e pawn or a c pawn at some point and move on with your life. I just play perk, King's Indian defense, and King's Indian attack. Completely valid. I've said before that openings are not required. And that's a perfect example of what I mean. You can totally just make a repertoire out of King's Indian defense, perk, and King's Indian attack, and just play chess games. My for the Devina Hand and Brain Winter Rumble, the tournament I recently played in, my partner for the tournament plays in that way. That's how she plays chess. Is it bad to only have 2 openings for 12,100? Well, it depends. If you have 2,100 clear, it's not that bad. Yeah, but wouldn't that be kind of deceptive because they make people feel like they would be playing it on stream, and I don't want to get that vibe. I'm not against that, Rexplore, but am I up? Yes. I think I would just have it have a cooldown, Rexplore. Maybe not a per person cooldown. Yeah, I could do that. It's not a bad idea. I do need to make channel. That could be. I need to make Channel Point Redemptions, revamp them. I have a list of things to do, but I just have not done it. Ooh, it's 10:44. I'm closing the queue. Anyone already in the queue will still get their time in the spotlight, but no one new will be able to join it. No, I would just make it a cooldown. I would make it a global cooldown plus an individual person cooldown. Ward lost 2-3 games because King Dangerous wants in London. That's why I'm asking. It was very annoying. Yeah, because the King's Indian attack, like you said, you always put the bishop on d3, right? And so the King's Indian attack is good in the sense that if someone plays the default brain dead London, it's going to get a good position for black against it. But if you change what you're doing slightly, then you're going to get a reasonable position as white, and you play chess. And if you're outplayed, you're outplayed. Yeah, of course. It would have to be on a cooldown. I'd make the cooldown like 8 minutes or something, so I have time to get through the song. Now, if someone will still redeem an hour-long song just to be a memester, but that's not a problem. Knight h5, bishop g3, knight g3, hd3, g6. Okay, and see, this isn't that bad for white. I mean, you've got the bishop pair as black. However, white can play a very solid central structure and has a bishop on the opposite color of most of his pawns. Completely rational. You don't even need to redeem anything for that. I'll just listen to Basketball Shoes off the cuff. I love that song. Takes. White's got fine central control. And while I'm not sure I fully agree with the way white's played this, I feel like it's a little bit passive, and they should have been playing to close the center a bit more. I'm not sure if e4 is a good move here, but something along the lines of e4. Maybe you take yourself, because you don't want to let me trade queens on d1, so when you eventually have to take with bishop, and then I play bishop e2 or something. I don't know. d5? d5, the only problem I have with d5 is I feel like at some point you get e4, but I don't know if you could do that now. It's not the dumbest thing. But what are you going to do? Play e4? That's hideous. Probably still Concord, Rexplore. It's been Concord for a while. It's either Concord or Place. But my least favorite song has changed. I now like Snow Globes, but I dislike Bread Song. It's just very clear plan for black here. That's very difficult to stop for white. I don't love this position. Taking makes more sense to me. But okay. Snow Globes does go hard. Castles and takes. It isn't bad. Knight h4, knight e4, knight takes, bishop takes, bishop f3. Standard advice: if your opponent has the bishop pair, trade off one bishop for one of your bishops, because bishop pair versus bishop and knight is better than bishop versus knight, because the bishop pair works very well together. Now there's play, because white can play against the fact that black's going to have a difficult time controlling the light squares, and black can play against the fact that white will have difficulty controlling the squares far away from their pieces. Hmm. Okay. Trading rooks probably benefits white because queen and knight typically work better together than queen and bishop. So trading rooks and then keeping the queens on the board and just playing chess with these pieces is probably one of the best things that white can do. If not the best thing. I'll get to that one in just a second, Rexport. King f8, sure. King f1. This is bad because of queen b1, I presume. And now queen d3 check. Yeah, so you pretty much guaranteed lose a pawn. It's a little too much modern dubstep for me. Queen f5 I just missed? Yeah, it makes sense. I would have missed as well. It's difficult to see. Sure. h6, b3. Queen takes. King takes. Rexport's got a very interesting taste. Here we go. Listening to Reptile now. It is very pretentious sounding, but I am very pretentious. I try not to sound pretentious, but I fail. Anyway. And now again, black will play against the dark squares and strong long range play. White will play against the light squares and better short range play. b4, knight c3, a4, knight a5, knight b3. Ooh, I don't think I like f4. In general, I kind of disagree with putting this pawn on f4 because it locks it on a dark square forever. And I really feel like the plan should be f3, g4 at some point. Yeah, I'm not a huge rhythm guy. I would far rather play king d3 followed by f3. f4 definitely isn't like bad or losing because there's no way for any pieces to get in because of how many pawns there are on the board. But I just don't like it. I think it's wrong. And now something like g5 might be possible at some point in the future. I disagree with this. Or maybe like an h4 and then this takes and then the bishop can come down. I don't like it. I disagree with this. I find king d3 far more in the spirit of the position move. There's no blunder, but bishop g7, king d3, bishop f6, king e3, b6, d5, cx d5. Cx d5, bishop c3. This is what I mean. Suddenly black has play if he plays b5 because now this pawn and this pawn are both trapped on dark squares. Principle of two weaknesses. White can't guard them both. The black king gets in, and so now black activates his last piece and has two weaknesses. C d5, bad how? Because it allows b5. It allows b5. And b5 creates two weaknesses and lets black's king in. Those are the two things black needs to win this game. In this position, the reason f4 is bad is because Jeffries created one weakness. This is a weakness. Now, the thing about endgames, and especially endgames with so few pieces on the board, you need two weaknesses and fully active pieces to win. Or at least as many active pieces as your opponent has. So, in order for black to win this game, black has the advantage. White is no universe playing for a win here. In order for black to win this game, he needs to create one more weakness and get his king in. Now, the problem for black is those are two very difficult things to do. The king cannot get in anyway right now, and there's not a second weakness, and nor is there an easy way for black to create a second weakness. So, the question then becomes, how do you do that? Like, a6 is a decent try, but Now after c5, you can never play b5 because of en passant, and you can't take back with a. Like endgame knowledge? Yeah, this is... I mean, my endgames aren't perfect, but I think I've got the read on this position. Maybe I don't, but I think I'm right. So, the problem with CD is by playing CD, you allow b5, which does both things black needs to win this game. King gets active because the king can walk in on b6. If you play a5, it's very clearly losing because you get bishop c3 and you can't defend the b4 pawn, the game ends. I take at least one pawn, I get a protected passer, the game ends. So if you take, then I play king b6. I get my king in and I have a second weakness. Game ends. It's over. It's over. It still requires a lot of finesse, but it's over. So CD4 allows black to play a move which does both things he needs in the position. Black misses b5, and now it gives white the opportunity to play b5. And white plays b5, guess what this does? It forever locks black's king out of the position because black has no pawns left to push. You push a6, I ignore it. So black has in no universe the ability to get the king in, and it takes this pawn off a dark square and puts it on a light square where it is no longer a weakness and can never become a weakness. It's kind of intuitive after d5. Can no longer become a weakness. So this forever solves those problems for white. Black has no way to get his king in and no way to create another weakness. Therefore, it's easy draw. And if anything, I prefer white because of the newly weakened c6 square. Although objectively, very drawn. If you ever play any move to try to get your knight in, I take it. Knight c1, king e7, knight d3, and now Jeffrey's trying to finesse because the knight is better at finessing in these sorts of positions. King e2, bishop c3, but there's no weakness to create here. There's nothing. Forward, bishop b4, knight e3, g4 check, king e2, bishop c5, knight c4. Both sides are trying to win. Again, something like this would be very, very bad for Jeffrey. Still holding because there's only one weakness, and black's king still can't get in. Remember, black needed those two things. He's gotten like a half of one of them. The king can kind of get in now, but not fully. And he has not created a second weakness. So, if these pawns were here and here, instead of here and here, black would be winning. Or very close to it, at least. However, but it still holds because, you know, you need two weaknesses in piece activity. Knight e3, g4, e2, so it's still fine. Black looks winning. Oh yeah, but again, black barely can't get in because here's the thing. Because in this position, let's go back. Because in this position, black doesn't have a productive way forward, white can just sit. White can just play this for the rest of the game. If you ever prevent knight e3, I go this way instead. And black has no way to make progress because black has no second weakness and no way to get the king in. Remember what we talked about. No second weakness, no way to get the king in. I just go back and forth the rest of the game. Knight c4. And if you try to be fancy, I go king f4. Keep the king out, keep everything out. Nothing. Hammer the points home, exactly. Nothing. You can't do anything. Just back and forth, back and forth. And now I could still do this. No second weakness, no way to get the king in. Which is why it still holds. I mean, this move is objectively fine, but I really hate it. It's just interesting. Both sides have to play kind of precise. If you're white and you play king c4 here, you lose on the spot to king d6. Because now I take your pawn. And if you're black and you play king c6 here, then I play king c4 and you're forced back to e7. And we play the same dance. So, well, you have to be a little careful here as white. And I know that Jeffrey is trying to flag his opponent, which is good, but there's nothing to play for. There's nothing. So, no flag. Time advantage makes you do weird things. Yep. So, Jeffrey played a very even game, kept up the CM, but 2 times he gave his opponent a chance to win. And this is kind of the difference between a CM and a GM, you know? A GM would play Queen F4 and Jeffrey would lose. And then a GM would play B5 and Jeffrey would lose. Because Jeffrey gave 2 chances. And this is not an insult to Jeffrey. Jeffrey played an excellent game of chess. But he's not a GM. I'm not a GM. And I'm seeing this because I have the engine and I have hindsight. Anyone can be a GM with an engine and hindsight. That's why cheating's such a problem. That's on the song. Oh, I turned it off for a second because I was focusing. Okay. Not gonna lie, I got a little bored. Because it just sounded like another rock song. I'm actually listening now, sorry. I'm listening. I'm actually paying attention now. Like, if I heard this opening guitar riff and drums and you told me it was a Weezer song, I would believe you. It doesn't sound like Weezer. And I know why it's not Weezer. But I'm just saying. What does this remind me of? I know, that's my point. I know it's criminal, but I'm being a bit hyperbolic to make a point. I'm being hyperbolic to make a point. You're the last one. Oh, I like that song. But that's because of nostalgia. You should be. There's absolutely stuff to learn, but Queen F4 was a tactical miss. However, I think C takes D5 was a very interesting move because it really clearly shows the dynamic of the endgame, and I think it's fascinating. Nirvana does go hard. I need to listen to a Nirvana album. Night, homies. Bishop H5, Bishop C4, C6. Very weird. He's trying to transpose into like a Hungarian perk. I thought In Utero was the best album. Or maybe In Utero was like in competition for the best album. So I liked the lyrics. I listened to the full song and I was paying more attention. I didn't like super hard focus on the lyrics like I would in a critical listening session. However, I did pay some attention. Now, with that in mind, I thought the lyrics were interesting. The vocals I've heard 100 times. The guitar riff was nice, but it didn't strike me as something I've never heard before either. And which is why I kind of faded into the background from my head, in my brain. I like the vocals. I like them too. No, I don't dislike them. This wasn't. I'm saying that I didn't hear anything that doesn't sound like. What's the other band I'm thinking of? I'm thinking of a band very clearly in my head. I can hear them. It's the same sort of compressed rock vocal. What's another? There's so many bands that have the compressed vocals, but I'm trying to think of one that specifically in my head. That'll come to me. Like I enjoyed it, and I would listen to it, but I wouldn't seek it out. You know? Well, yeah. Well, yeah, but still. Saw vocals and successful with my knowledge. I believe that, because this song, when was the song from? 2009. Yeah, I believe that. I totally believe it. But I don't know how that can change my feeling about the music, and rather than just changing my purely intellectual appreciation of what they were doing. 2001? Yeah, then they were one of the first, if not the first. In that case, but that's kind of part of my problem. I believe you. Well, that's not fair, Void. You're comparing the best of yesteryear to the average of today. Like, obviously, Void, I would say this is better than the average song today. Where'd my game go? I don't know. I completely forgot about it. Well, from a technical aspect, yes, but I would say that it's not technically better than average song today. It's artistically better, but that's not the part that you improve over time. Is you will do that, yes. I'm just talking like mainstream pop or something. Yeah, sure. You just call me technical? How'd the hand brain go? Actually, really well. We were one draw in a winning position away from $200 each. It was so sad. We both made a mistake, one after another, and it was tragic. However, we learned a lot, and next time we'll do even better. Okay, hold on a second. I should pay attention to this. Anyway, I was in music criticism mode. Hand and Brain? Yeah, I played a Hand and Brain tournament with Agnet, another chess streamer. It was good fun. The VOD's up, and I think she has a YouTube video on it. Or at least she's going to. I don't know if it's done editing yet. I should probably check that. It was live streamed, yeah. It was just on Sunday. I announced it on my Discord and my stream on Wednesday last week. Didn't have a Saturday stream to announce it, so. Based Rexpor. Good night. I'll listen to more of the Strokes because maybe I'll feel better about it in the experience of a full album. But I also need to listen to Nirvana. I still haven't listened to a Nirvana album. I still haven't finished Disintegration either. Still need to do that. 97, A4. a4 to prevent b5 makes some sense. Also to maybe push a5 to prevent knight b6, like the standard sort of idea. And von Holland, yes. Queen e2, I don't understand. I guess you're trying to hold on to this pawn while also keeping this knight defended without blocking in your bishop. But I would probably rather block in my own bishop than play queen e2. Because at least here, Discord link for what? Oh, you mean the link for Discord? I mean, it's the command Discord. You just need to not have a space there. Anyway, I would probably rather play this. Or mine saying g4. G4 is probably too committal. Because this is still a big weakness, and g4 doesn't actually solve any of your problems. Queen e2 looks fine, but I don't think it improves your position. And if you're sitting here not improving your position, I'm going to be improving my position. No, I'm happy with my hands. e5, bishop g5, bishop e7, castles. See, this is what I mean. You haven't... This queen is misplaced. Hello, banana. Not too important. I disagree. Micro improvements are like 90% of chess. Actually, bishop d3 is probably even better than both, but it's not so bad. Rook d1, but you want to play rook d1. Why would you play rook d1? This pawn is going to stay here forever. Your rook was supposed to be on a1 and e1. You don't want to play rook d1. The e file is the one that's going to open, not the d file. You don't want to take that. That wouldn't make sense. That countered the logic of the position. Got in, based. Bishop d3 is better than both because you don't block in your bishop, and this bishop wasn't doing anything on c4 anyway. Unless you're trying to push d5, which doesn't make any sense. So bishop d3 is better than both because this bishop's already not doing anything, so it might as well not be developed. However, I don't like playing those sorts of moves because I'm based, and so I'm thinking knight b d2. However, again, queen e2, this is the file that's going to open. So you're also putting your queen on a file that's going to open in a few moves. That can't be right. It is micro improvements, but queen e2 falls prey to like 3 different micro improvements at the same time, and that makes it an inaccuracy. Math. Which is why I'm discussing it to begin with. It can be ready for casting out of the way, no? Well, no, because as black, I'm still going to put a rook on e8. You're still going to get tempoed. You still keep the option for bishop f4 or knight bd2. Well, then play bishop e3, bishop d3. If you want to play bishop f4 before knight bd2, play bishop d3, because this bishop's not doing anything anyway. If you don't care, then play knight bd2, and then put your queen on c2 or something. Maybe b3 even. It is a GM move. That's why I'm not suggesting it, because I wouldn't play this, so I'm not going to pretend like I would want someone else to. This is what I would play. Again, this is the file that's going to open. Putting your queen on a file that's going to open, I don't think makes a lot of sense. b4? But b4 blunders the pawn. That's the problem. This pawn is currently hanging. That's the immediate thing we need to resolve. We need to defend this pawn somehow. That's the first, that's why we're considering these 3 moves. It's because all 3 of these moves defend the pawn. Yeah, because the queen is just bad on this square. It's not a good piece on this square. You also prevent bishop coming back to e2 and pinning your knight. So queen e2 is just a misplaced queen and a wasted tempo. Not wasted, a poorly spent tempo. Not wasted. That's a bit strong. I'm nitpicking, but I like nitpicking. Why do you think I started streaming? It's because nobody wants to hear me nitpick, but here, I can nitpick all I want. Queen c2? Queen c2 would be good if not for bishop f3. Squandered, yes. If this wasn't a problem at some point, then it would be a good move. Like, I could probably play this right now and be good, but this is also probably equally reasonable. And now my pieces are just slightly better than yours. This is also possible, but I'm a human, so I would do this. I'm here to argue. Exactly. But I'm a human, so I would do this. And we would play this position, and I prefer black here. And I think most humans would agree with me, even if the computer is saying it's basically triple zeros. It's not an easy position to play as black, but I would prefer black here. I think the double pawns are a bigger weakness than the bishop pair is a strength. I like white. The rational minds may differ, but I just disagree. And plus, I don't think there's any reason for white to go into this. I think it's just strictly better to play knight bd2. Again, or bishop d3. Bishop d3 probably the better move, but I want to go e5 and f4. Well, see, the problem is I play c5, though. And you don't get to play e5, f4. g5 looks juicy. Where are you putting your king, bruv? Where is your king going? Now the f5 square is a huge weakness. And I play g6 here, here, and I have no weaknesses, and you have to deal with this. And I'm going to start smashing open the queen side. King stays in the center. Yeah, but this knight's going to be very strong. You have a hole. Again, the double pawn creates a hole. You've overpushed the e-pawn. Let the king stay in the center for now, but I can start attacking it from the flanks. I have more queenside space, not you. And because, so think about this. You have kingside space, I have queenside space. Okay, the center is closed. Right? So let's think about this logically. You cannot make any progress on the king side. It's impossible. I will play knight here, here, g6. You will never make progress. Ever. Ever. Because of your double pawns. And additionally, the center is closed, which makes the bishop pair weaker. Now compare that to black. I have the knight pair in a closed position, and all of my pawns are perfectly placed for a queenside attack. Well, a7 I don't think is a move. Again, so your idea, you have worse minor pieces, and you don't have any meaningful way to put pressure on my king side, and I have better minor pieces, and a way of meaningfully putting pressure on your queen side. Black isn't winning here. Black isn't winning here. I'm not even sure black's much better. But from a human perspective, it's way easier to play this as black. This is not a successful opening as white. This is a successful opening as black. Black should not be having this much fun. Now, knight g8 isn't the easiest move to find. However, it's kind of the only... Actually, no, I take that back. It's very easy to find. You don't have another move. e4, a7, d4, e6. What? a7. Party in Patserville? Yeah. So this is not a successful opening. You could play this, and you know a grandmaster would beat black. A good player would beat me here as well. But a7 isn't a move. Like a7 is where the pawn is already. Are you saying a6? Anyway, so either way, queen e2, I disagree with. Oh, okay, that makes a lot more sense. a6, e6. Well, it doesn't make zero sense. It's like a hyper-accelerated con. Evidently, you can just sack the knight because then you play. Then after takes here, you get the bishop pair. You get the bishop pair and a very strong center on the light squares. Hey, Stein! This is the late French. There you go. So this is also probably bad because all these light squared pawns probably benefit black since white's forced to have pawns on dark squares, but not that big of a deal, I don't think. Either way, e5, I don't really agree with. I would play d5 here over e5. Because even this, I think, looks better for black. I like the queen side minority attack that's going to happen here. And the fact that white's doesn't really have a very natural way of developing his pieces after bishop d6. Like, I don't see how you develop here as white in a meaningful way. This knight won't be doing anything on d2, but it has to go to d2. This bishop won't be doing anything on e3, but it has to go to e3, you know? How you doing, Benjamin? It has been a hot second. I'm doing pretty darn well. I'm panicking over exams and assignments, but otherwise I'm fine. Knight e3, knight c2. But what does the knight do there as well? The knight's still not doing anything on c2. Like, sure. Okay, let's say castles. let's say castles. Knight a3. What is the knight doing on c2 exactly? Is it going to b4? That doesn't look productive. Has e3. But e3 doesn't do anything either. e3 is still a bad square. What do you want to do? Play c4? And create a forever weakness on d4? Nah. Bandwidth, I'm here. Got fired last week. Oh no, what happened? If you don't mind sharing. You don't have to share. e3 is decent? No, it's not. It's not, doesn't do anything. It doesn't do anything. It's a nothing burger of a piece. You go g3, knight g2 after. You've got to be kidding. How many moves did we make with this piece of junk knight? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 moves to play a mediocre plan. It's a valid idea, but you're playing 5 moves for a mediocre plan. It isn't even like a winning idea. Yeah, after his bishop 4. Oh yeah, for sure. Again, it's not a bad idea. It's just not an amazing idea. You play bishop f4, and I take it anyway, and I play bishop g6, and I give you the bishop. I don't care. It's not even, like, it doesn't win the game for you. Even if I wait the 5 moves, moving a rook back and forth, it still doesn't win you the game. Overslept. Had a warning back in October. Went to work in depressive state, so it's just dumb. Ugh. Knight b2 f1 seems better. It's straight out of the dark square bishops. Again, that benefits you, but it doesn't win. So you're playing 7 moves to play a move that to slightly benefit your position. As black, it's way easier. As black, I can do this, in 2 moves, my position's way better. That's a depressive state. Really bad mental space, I just do this as black, massively improve my position. Black has very clear ways to improve their position very quickly. White does not. This is also possible. But ultimately, the dark squared bishop is depressed. Like depressed? Yes. Again, I'm not saying that white is losing here. I'm saying that white's worse. If anything, white's worse. It's not super clear because that black has a difficult time breaking through, but wow. Anyway, very off track. Castles, and bd2. d5 is definitely wrong. Excuse me? Free pawn? Poggies? Felt really bad mentally, yeah? Oh, that's rough. I'm so sorry. Bishop takes f6, bishop takes f6, d takes, knight takes, bishop b3. It's still better for white, but yeah, black played this very poorly. Black was not thinking about any of these nuances. Black was thinking about none of this. There was no head empty, no think. Look at this. If this isn't proof that Queen E2 was bad, I don't know what is. I was back in October. Now I just got Christian frantically looking for a home. That's good, probably. I love the stream. Condolences all those bad things happen. Thank you, Banana. Appreciate you stopping by. If this isn't proof that Queen E2 was a bad move, I don't know what is. Kaisa has a funny way of punishing sins. Anyway. Queen b5 is definitely better. Getting out of the pin. Although, it's hard to justify all this. Never mind. I don't know if I see Queen b5 being much better. Don't know. I'd rather travel. Yeah. But I mean, at some point you have to kind of put down roots, right? It's difficult to keep up a life with that much just moving around. I was scared of that. And so it's Queen b1. The difference being Bishop c2. Queen c2 Bishop g6, there's no bishop c2. That's the big difference. Here, not here, sorry, here. And then bishop c2. Big difference. Yeah, homies? Huge difference. Knight c5 was strongly inaccurate. There's no reason not to play bishop g6. Bishop g6 is just a very good move here. There's zero reason not to play bishop g6. White can do nothing about bishop g6. The George defense. Oh, there you go. Knight c5 isn't terrible either, but yeah, the problem is now you pretty concretely lose b2. And the knight stays on d3. This is a painful piece to deal with long term. But okay, he played b6 instead. Trying to hold on to the b pawn. A little greedy. Queen c7 and knight b6. And he gives you the pawn anyway. Sheesh. Sheesh. Wow, that went sour real fast for black. Black got greedy and paid the price. And now, look how the turntables have turned. And tabled. Black is now strictly worse. He's down 2 pawns against the bishop pair with weaker pawn structure. All he's got is slightly more active pieces. Would you ever name my child George? I would never do that to the poor kid. I'm not cruel. Now look at this position. Utterly dominant. I wouldn't even take that. I would play king g3. I don't even want to just have fun. Anyway, it takes is obviously very good. What George is nothing. I'm just making fun. I don't care. I know plenty of Georges. Now that I think about it, most of the Georges I know are pretty cool people, so evidently can't be that bad of a name, right? Just pushing it all forward. Nothing that black can do other than cope. Until you play knight e7. Why'd you play knight e7? Just play c7. Let him take on b6. I don't care. See how much I care. Queen. We should have more Georges. But if we had more Georges, would the Georges get worse as a result? Knight d4 also does the trick. For the reason of this, and I play d7, I play c7 next move. Knight d4 also does the trick. Knight c7 does not, because of rook takes b6 immediately. Now knight d4, rook takes b6, b6 doesn't work, because knight takes e6 check, and then rook c1, and I queen anyway. Whoops. And then knight c7, rook takes b6. There is no such move, because king d6, c7, I can just play king takes e7. And the bishop still exists. Crazy. Look how fast it can all go down the drain. I would have taken that. And boom. You can't take her, I take yours. Just depressing game, very. Oh, but he played rook b3. Never mind, chess is the best game. Best game ever. 2 pawn up at rook endgame. Let's go. Let's go. 2 pawns up in the rook endgame. We're gonna win. Okay, boom. Black doesn't know their endgames either. We're fine. We are totally fine. We are so fine. We are so back. Do people arrange their personality to their name? I know like 5 Matildas. Mathilda? Is Mathilda a name? No, but maybe just the parents who would name their child Matilda. Is Danish? Oh, Mathilda. Okay. Maybe just the parents who name their child Mathilda have poor taste in name, so they also have poor taste in child rearing. So do I. Never in doubt. Never any doubt whatsoever. Interesting opening. Interesting game. Correlation does not equal causation. The classic. Okay, now it's Lag's turn. Oh, no, wait. No, it isn't. It is Homies' turn. I forgot. They've done studies and have shown that people do look like their names. And the best guess is that's why. It's because there's like a correlation between what you would name someone and other things. Just like there's a correlation between any one thing and any other thing, right? Everything correlates with everything else in some sense. Not really? What do you mean, not really? What do you mean, not really? Expand on that. Or the opposite of what their names mean? That's not what I said. I said it correlates. I did not say it's always the case. Correlation means it's more likely to be one way than another. And it's not what names mean, it's what names mean not from a literal sense, but from a societal sense. Just because my first name is Lazar doesn't mean I'm going to come back from the dead. And again, correlation doesn't mean everyone is like that. It means people are more likely to be that way than to not be that way. You have nothing alike. Again, correlation does not mean that everyone matches the rule or even most people match the rule. It means more people match the rule than any other. It's like a majority thing, you know? It's like averages. You can have an average that's not equal to any of the points on your graph. That doesn't mean the average is wrong. Again, this is something that's often confused. That's super important because really interesting. How do you even study that? For the names, what they did was they had people match their faces to their names, and people got it right more times than expected by random chance. So people were able to guess at people's names from their faces more likely than would normally be expected. Again, it was a very, not a weak study, but a very specific study. But again, this is something that people mess up oftentimes. You don't use averages to define individuals, right? That's the negative part of stereotyping. Averages tell you about averages. They don't tell you about individuals. Very important difference. I actually don't know, Void. Depends on the country, I would expect. It might be flawed depending on how you determine likelihood of one's guessing someone's name. Oh, for sure. Oh, for sure. Again, it was quite a few years ago that I looked into this sort of stuff, but I don't remember finding any too huge of problems, but you would have to look into yourself. Do your own research. Don't take my word for things. Well, it was multiple choice. They had 3 faces and 3 names, and they asked people to assign every name to a face. It was multiple choice, which introduces its own host of problems. However, it makes calculating the probability pretty easy. No, 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 no. Doesn't look precise though. What doesn't look precise? The study? Well, again, I don't remember the exact details of the study. Again, this was a long time ago. I remember the 3 names and the 3 faces thing. I remember the results, but I don't remember the exact methodology. It's been a few years. But again, things being correlated isn't shocking, especially if it's a weak correlation. Gotta look into that. You should. Again, do your own research. I'm not telling you this so you can take my word for it. I'm telling you it so you can look it up. You know? I've mentioned this in the past stream, but I think it's a new group here from the last time I talked about this. So I'm bringing it up again. There's a YouTuber who I don't particularly love. However, I find some of their stuff occasionally has interesting ideas, so I was watching it for that reason. And at one point, they brought up an article, right? To help with a point, to demonstrate a point. They very clearly didn't look too deep into the article or its sources, so I was curious, and I did. No. And so I was curious, and so I looked into the source, and I did some research, did my own research. So I found out that the source was a paper by a naturopathic doctor, which is a group known for being associated with the anti-vax movement. The bad anti-vax movement, not the COVID vaccine suspicious one, but the vaccines are evil one. Anyway, and so I was like, okay, that's suspicious. And the article wasn't written by the person that the YouTuber said it was written by. It was written by someone else as a guest on the first person's website. Playing homies? Yes. And so I was like, okay, that's 2 weird things. I'm looking into this deeper. And so then I started reading the studies presented by the actual article. The article took a few of the sentences from the study out of context that weren't technically incorrect, but were misleading. Right? So they weren't wrong, it was just slightly misleading. The facts weren't wrong. And so the YouTuber then proceeded to misinterpret those facts from the study. Those misleading facts. And gave a conclusion which directly contradicted what was in the study. Like exactly the opposite. So it went study, article, YouTuber, and the YouTuber said the opposite of the study. And none of them lied. How interesting is that? Nobody lied, but we got the exact opposite information. Imagine he goes bishop c5. I'm not against that. I would take this and then push b4. That's my plan. Either way, I think I'm already slightly better here. Well, now I'm more than slightly better. I think he almost loses his knight, doesn't he? No, he just loses a pawn. Still very good for me. I will preserve the bishop pair. And so that's really confirmed to me how important doing your own research is. Because it took 2 steps. No lies. In 2 steps, we got to the opposite of the study. We got the opposite of the first piece, the first bit of information. That's crazy. That blew my mind when I saw it. I was just completely dumbfounded. Again, because the guy... I really don't think he would just knowingly lie to his audience because he could. I don't think he was the me when I spread misinformation on the internet type, if that makes sense. I was looking at bishop f6, queen f6, queen e8, king h7, bishop e4, g6. I was considering that as well. The reason I didn't go with it is because I felt like going into an opposite color bishop endgame was a very quick and easy way to get a draw. And I do not want to draw in this position. I want to win because I feel like my position is quite a bit better. And so I'm trying to avoid opposite color bishops. I don't think it's too difficult to avoid opposite color bishops, but that's my primary goal right now. Is to avoid opposite color bishops. Mission success. Bishop e4. Bishop e4 is also on my radar. I didn't play bishop e4 because I like the bishop pair as well, and so I feel like keeping it on the board was an advantage for me. Maybe bishop e4 was a good move. Maybe it was even the best move, but I really also wanted to keep the bishop pair if I was given the choice. Or at least go bishop for knight instead of bishop versus bishop. Bishop versus knight, I like more in this position. Bishop e4, knight e4, queen e4, g3 gives a weakness, and king h8, king g7 gives queen a8. Oh, absolutely. Again, that's a completely reasonable way of playing, and I think it would have been significantly better for me. There are multiple good moves in this position, or there were multiple good moves in that position. It was not for fear of it being a bad move that I didn't play that move. It was for want of a better move. It's because I wanted something even better. That was absolutely a good move. I just didn't think it was best. Now this is quite sure best. I think knight a4 is a mistake. That looks good, but it just isn't in practice. Okay, now I get here, and I get to play this. The bishop is a very strong piece in this endgame. Now I push my connected passers, and black will have some serious problems long term, especially since I'm about to trap his knight. Whoops. It knows what to do. It knows to give itself up for a pawn. It's not a very good thing. And now look at the way the bishop and the pawn interact. Together, the king cannot stop it. The king can't touch the pawn. Ever. Look how beautiful that is. It's like my favorite part of chess, man. Those little things. Look at how they work together. Beautiful. I love endgames. The knight was trapped. I was going to take it. Beautiful. I love endgames. That's why I love endgames. Is because there are so few pieces on the board, you can so clearly see the way the pieces move and interact and dance. And the squares they cover and the lines they draw. It has such an aesthetic quality to it. Played so bad. Again, your opening was fine. You're very regularly getting out of the opening nowadays. And you're even pretty regularly getting out of the middle game. So this was just very poor. You missed a3 clearly. Your pieces are bad. This knight is the worst piece on the board. You need to solve this knight. This is your big problem. Putting it on a5 to begin with was slightly suspicious, in my opinion. There was no reason. This tempo didn't gain you anything. I wanted to get the queen off the square anyway because you're going to play rook c8 and c5. This is already a bad square for the queen. You don't need to force me off it. So I'm getting better? Absolutely. Something like this is probably better. No. He wants knight e4. And the queen's guards the knight. Yeah, knight e4 is definitely better. Knight e4 is definitely the best move. Without a doubt. Knight 2, bishop b4. I played a little passively, but... And now because of that, the endgame is drawn. But bishop c6 is a straw that broke the camel's back. Your position is already very suspicious. These pieces are very poorly placed. However, after bishop e8, you can kind of get away with it. You can kind of get away with it. Because I don't really have a way to punish you too hard for anything in particular. Yeah, I'm going to check bishop b4. Again, I can almost guarantee you bishop b4 is a very good move. Bishop b4 here? Or bishop b4 before h3? Bishop b4 before or after h3? What was your plan? Both are good. Or do you want even before this? Do you want before bishop d4 even? I think bishop d4 is a good inclusion, so I think I'm more just before h3. Okay, check. Knight takes, queen takes. And then f5 most likely is what I would play. Get pawns off of dark squares. Yeah. Again, still very good. Winning even for white. And then queen a8, queen c7 is my only move that makes sense. And then you just... First, like h3, but... Then... a4, bishop c5, and you slowly improve. This is absolutely also winning. Like I said, very much a good move, just not the best. This queen h3 is just a move to buy myself some time and be good. As a 2100, what do you think is a good rating? 2300. Here's the rule, Snanzy. Snanzinzi. Snazny NY. That's what it was. Snazny NY. The rule is whatever your elo is, you think 200 more is good. That's the rule. So Magnus will think 3000 is good. That's the rule. Bishop d4, bishop d8. Yeah, the computer liked the way I played this endgame as well. Queen c2. Queen c2 is good as well, creating weaknesses. 102. See, you agree with me. Then h3. I'm just slowly. Because h3, my point with h3 is now if I do something like this, and now if e5, I move e4, and I move the bishop somewhere at some point, there's never going to be knight g4. That's the only part about h3. It's very slow. Hydrate? I do need to hydrate. I've been talking about e5, bishop c5. Okay, even better. Anyway, but again, so now I've got the bishop pair, and so going into the endgame, a bishop pair and 2 pawns up is just wonderful. Just preserving the bishop pair, you gave me another pawn. I will generously take that. And after bishop d4, this is already guaranteed losing. Of course, it's already losing here, but this is the very, very easy loss because this forces the trade of a piece. Queen d7 is definitely better. This forces the trade of pieces because I'm going to go here and I'm going to take your knight. What are you going to do to stop me? The knight is currently trapped by the bishop. Very common tactic in endgames. This bishop 2 squares away from the knight. Very common. So, I'm going to go here and take your knight. What are you going to do about it? So you have to play something like bishop b6 or knight b6. Knight b6, I don't take it because I don't want to go opposite color bishops. I don't like the queen trade. I love the queen trade. I love the queen trade. Queen trade, right here, I win this pawn. In this position, I love the queen trade. After queen d7, I like the queen trade less because I don't win the a7 pawn. So here, I don't think I would trade queens. I don't think I would trade queens here. Or at least I wouldn't be the one to do it. You can take my queen, but I won't take yours. For black? Oh, for black, it's also bad. But here it's even worse. Here it's still... I mean, a4. You take me. Because then, bishop 2 squares away from the knight. We just talked about this. The knight is dominated. Look at this. Look at this stuff. Look at this. Look at this knight. Where are you going, home slice? It can go to h5, but then it has nowhere to go. Or it can go to g8, where it also has nowhere to go. This knight is trapped. And h3 looks like a genius level move now. No, not really, because the knight still can't get anywhere after going to g4. Good night. Okay, now it's... Yep. Now is I blame lag's turn if he's still here. Again, this perfectly shows why the bishop's so much better than the knight. This position really shows it. Look at the knight and look at my bishops. That's just chess speaks for itself. I'm not going to call him a wise man, but he's definitely a man, once said. A man child, but yep. Let's do 3 + 2. I like increments. Interesting endgames today. I think that's like the theme of the stream is we got a bunch of interesting endgames. What move are we playing today, Mr. Lag? 3 main moves. Take your pick. Okay. Move 9 castles it is. Perfectly okay with playing these positions. Let's see what your next plan is. Show me the goods. Already on move 10, things are heating up. That's why I love the dragon so much. The main lines are so exciting, and the sidelines aren't challenging. It's the perfect combination. Okay. This is not remotely threatening. After knight takes, I take with queen. If you want to win a pawn, the way to do it was knight takes c6. This does not win a pawn. It doesn't really do anything, and it leads to a very comfortable game for black. Because worst case, I trade everything in the center. You know, develop with tempo, right? Principles. Interesting. Interesting. See, but now the difference is, because I have this move included, now I get to play rook d8. And he can't guard the rook with his other rook because I'm a tempo up. We go back, in this position, I can't do that because I don't have rook d8 at the end. So now it's a slight improvement because I've gained control over the only open file in the position. Very subtle difference. And also his king is 1 square further away. So what has we changed in this position? We've put a pawn on a bad square, we've put his king further away from the center, and we've gained control over the open d file. That's why these subtleties are important. It's because the subtleties get you these sorts of things. This is what the subtleties are for, is to give you these positions. And now this position is significantly better than it would have been a move or two ago. I'm not winning, but it is better. It is strictly better than it was a move ago. And this is proof of that. Going to take this because I'd rather have my pawn on b6 than a7 because he's going to take e7. And now look, as the black pieces, I'm dictating the pace of the endgame. Maybe I'm not winning, but I'm in the driver's seat. I am in full control over the position. I've got a better king, I've got a better rook. And while I might not be a pawn up, I also might be a pawn up. Haven't fully calculated it out. Is it still a draw? Yes. Is it much harder for white? Yes. And I have not played a move that's required much thought. Every move I played this game has been incredibly natural and easy. Okay, now I think this is the correct call. An alternative plan was to take here and then go check and take with rook, but I like this better. Doesn't even have check on b6. I don't think b7 is a good square for that piece. A little bit of finesse. Potential weakness. Maybe not, but also maybe so. I don't think white has a plan. I didn't calculate this. Takes, king, king. It's got to be winning, right? Now it's definitely winning. He's a 2 tempi worse than he would have been if he had taken the rook. Very, very clearly winning king and pawn endgame. GG's. Endgames, man. Now wait, I'm curious. In this position, in the position if you take the rook here, do I win? Because you're 2 tempi better. You're 2 tempi up. So, are the 2 tempi enough to draw? They might be. This might have been a mistake. I don't know if I allowed the draw or not. Nope. You're too slow. Yep, you're too slow. Tempo shy. Tempo shy, yep. I thought so. My gut told me it was, but I wasn't 100%. Okay, now let's see what happened. So, move 9 castles is one of the lines. It's not the main line, but it's one of the 3 respected lines in this position. D5 is what I played. Played like 1700, that's nice. Yeah, you didn't play a poor game of chess. You just got theoried. I like the rouser. No, this is a good line. This is a good line. I like it a lot. Although I would very much recommend not taking. I don't think this is well, first off, this is just inaccurate. And that's weird. I don't know. Everyone knows the main line? Yeah, no, this is a good line. This is a good line. However, I do not recommend this. I simply have a very comfortable game. King b1 is a mistake. Even if you go something like this, I just play queen takes. d5 caught me off guard. I'm used to bishop d7. d5 is the main line here. Panoff's a different line. This is the rouser. The Panov is a g4 on move 9, I think. Yeah, this is the Panov. Also very respected. No, but here's the thing. If you're going to play after castles, d5 is the main move. It's pretty much the only move that fights for equality as black. Every other move is kind of bad. Every other move, bishop d7 is incorrect here. Just actually wrong because of g4. This is just a worse version of the Panov. Bishop d7 is very tricky, yes, but it is also strictly wrong. d5 is the only move that meaningfully plays for equality as black, to my knowledge. I think there might also be a line that goes e6, but nah, not in this position. e6 was a different. e6 was in the Panov, I think. Yeah, e6 is Panov. No, this is good. However, d5 you can't take that. Or rather, you really shouldn't take that. Unless you want to go for this line. This is totally fine. You can go for this. If you want to play this, go for it. And this is just a slightly better endgame for white. It's known to be fine for black. Black is known to survive this. However, it is a slightly better endgame for black, for white. So, no, this is the thing you do if you take, because it's, again, slightly better endgame, and so you try to grind down black in a slightly better endgame. A very dry way to play. I don't like it because it's so dry, but really, white's the only one who's going to win this. Just pawn out the knight. Yes, you leave that knight in the center. You do not take that central knight. Now, that's the main thing. However, what I would recommend here is if you want to actually play... Okay, so if you want to play for an endgame grind, then absolutely take this. This is wonderful way to win as white if you feel confident in your endgames, because this is just a slightly better endgame. I'm telling you, white is just slightly better for the rest of the game. Black will sit and he will suffer. Now, objectively, it's probably drawn. However, he was going to suffer. Black will suffer. Now, if you want to play something more ambitious and more aggressive, Queen E1 is an interesting line, and is the other line here. Queen E1 is the other line here. This is a very weird position. Things get goofy fast. If memory serves, this is the theory. It's something along the lines of this. No, it's not. It's bishop c4 here, sorry. Bishop c4, and then bishop e6, and then knight e4. You get this sort of thing. And you play these positions. Not there, sorry. Bishop c4. Rook f8. And then like g4. This is also a very common line. It's the second most common out of the Rouser. It's good stuff. I enjoy playing these positions. I feel like there's a lot of creative expression here because of just how interesting and how dynamic the position is. A lot of weird strengths and weaknesses to play around. However, you can also just play the endgame. Both are completely, totally fine. This is probably objectively slightly not as good for white. However, it's also way harder for black to play. Queen h4, g4. In this position, I would advise g4. Just because this is so hard to deal with. This is the primary problem, right? If I do something dumb like a5 or something, if I do something pointless, you play h4 and then like g5, h5, right? Because this is still a Yugoslav. You still go for this attack. It's just a really goofy one. You know, I try to win some material or something. You might win the game pretty fast. This attack is annoying to deal with. Queen h4 is also very good. You can play that. But just play chess. This is fine too. I mean, it's the same idea, right? And what black is trying to trade everything down and kind of survive. And if you manage to do that as black, you're okay. Like a knight f4 here. It's very weird stuff, and it's okay. But or you could just find moves. It's a very hard position for both sides, but that's part of the fun. Like, I don't even think you have to play bishop c5 here. I think there's also maybe it's this. Yeah, there's also king b1 in this position, because there's always king b1, because it's the Yugoslav. There's always king b1. You can just assume king b1 is a position and a move in any given position. As long as king b1 doesn't hang a piece, it's a move. So that's also another fun thing you can do. And again, so you just play chess, right? So you either go for the end. I would say go for the end game or go for queen e1 if you're going to go Rouser. If you don't want to play mainline, you don't want to play Panov, either end game or queen e1. Depending on how you want black to suffer. After d5, though, e takes, knight takes. Knight takes leaves nothing. The position is very dry. If anything, black's better. Knight takes here, you go for the endgame. If you go for this pawn sacrifice is long known to be totally fine for black. This is a very well-known and well-studied pawn sacrifice, and black is totally fine after queen c7. It looks like the rook's hanging. It's not. You really shouldn't take the rook. Again, this is long known to be totally playable, and black has plenty of compensation. Which, the compensation is kind of very visually easy to see. I'm going to play either bishop here or here, depending on the position, I'm going to play one of the rooks here and the other one to b8, and my bishops are beautiful, my rooks are beautiful, my queen is beautiful, everything in my position is very cohesive. So, I mean, technically it's playable, but black has a better win rate in this position than white does. I mean, it's just hard to play. It's just hard to play. You have to go like queen a3, and it's like, okay. Okay, buddy. I would not recommend it. A ton of people learn that the rouser exists, and then when I sack the pawn, they take the pawn and they lose. Because there's so many ways to lose. Taking the rook almost loses. It's significantly better for black. Like, queen b5 here almost loses. It's significantly better for black. And you have to give me b2, which is horrifying. Like, bishop d4 almost loses. It's significantly better for black. You know? It's just, there's so much stuff you have to deal with. There's just so much stuff. And why? When you could either play a slightly better endgame that you'll grind out for 3 years, or a crazy position where both sides are exploding the center and trying to not die immediately. Right? And again, king b1's always a move. Because it's the Yugoslav. You could always play king b1. But yeah, those are the two main lines. I study these positions for fun because these are super interesting. And you have to play e5 here. e6 is also technically a move, but black is just groveling for a draw in a slightly worse position for a million years. It's miserable. This is miserable. You gotta go for e5 in the goofy stuff. And then everything else is just very bad for black. It's e6 grovels for a draw, but is painful. e5 fights, and everything else is bad. Because this is such a difficult thing to deal with. I mean, it's the dragon. There's a ton of theory, but honestly, if I were trying to recommend something practical, probably the end game, because dragon players are going to hate it. And you play chess. Not take with the c6 knight. Oh yeah. But again, you have to have a very good reason to take the e6 knight. e5, the good reason is your knight's hanging. e6, there's no reason. This knight's very strong. Let it chill. Knight takes c6, b takes c6. Yeah, because look, now you solidified my pawn structure. Remember, white's big advantage in the Yugoslav is center and development. You have given up the center, and you've given up development by playing that move. You've given up your only two advantages. Because you're no longer better developed, we're now equally developed. Okay, sure, maybe your rook is slightly better. Okay, you're not even really. And you don't have the central control anymore. I have just as good, if not better, central control than you do. So you've given up your two primary advantages. It's even. And you haven't gotten anything in return. You know, in the endgame one, you give up your two primary advantages. You don't have the center anymore, and you don't have the development anymore. So you do give up those advantages in the endgame line, but in return you get weak pawns that you get to try to poke for the rest of the game. You give a very long-term positional advantage. Here, what do you have? A better light squared bishop that's currently on f1 and doesn't have a square it wants to go to? You know? You can still play this and you'll beat people with this because h4, h5 is just such a difficult and annoying plan to stop. But Bonaros, thank you so much for the follow. You know, because this is just such an annoying plan that in every line you can win just by playing h4, h5. It's just the nature of the dragon. But you don't have anything objective. Because this knight's just sometimes does this, but yeah, you just take. So, I mean, it's chess, right? On move 14, okay. was happy that I was found c4. Yes, c4 was required, but even after c4, it's worse. Because of what I mentioned. I don't know if you're here while I was talking, but I mentioned that in this position, if I traded off the queen and then the bishop like this, then if you look, you have control over the open file, and your bishop gets out as soon as mine does. Additionally, you don't really have any pawn weaknesses. And if anything, you have slight pawn strengths, because the queenside pawn majority is usually considered to be better than the kingside one. And a 3-on-2 is better than a 4-on-3. How much of an advantage that is? It's basically not an advantage. Very small. However, it technically is an advantage, so it'd be remiss of me not to mention it. That being said, if we go back to the position as it was, the inclusion of bishop e6 and c4, the difference is now, if we look at the same position, I get control over the only open file. You have this overpushed pawn here, which is on a light square, and I can keep on a light square forever. And you have a more difficult time developing your bishop. So now it's gone from a position where nothing exists. Thank you so much, Jane Bell Swift and Zores Shabkez. Sorry, I would not be interested, Jane. I appreciate the offer. Anyway. Now, if we look, it's the same position, but the difference is I basically get a free tempo. 2 free tempi. And you've played c4, which, if anything, hurts your position. As you saw, c4 became a major sticking point. Now, b6 is the most accurate, but the idea is there. Again, I didn't play this most accurately, but the ideas were right. And now you have to deal with this rook endgame, which is annoying. And, like, you play rook b7 and suddenly you're losing. You know what I mean? Now, I didn't play this correctly, but, that's the rook endgames. You know they're hard. And here it's already very bad because you don't have a plan. Play rook c4 and avoid the check, which is very funny. And my plan was just rook b5, and then after rook b5, it's completely lost. You know, endgames. Endgames. This rook endgame is significantly better for me because I have a very outside passed pawn. I have a king that can enter the position just as easily as yours can, and you know. This is what I mean when I say finesses, because technically this isn't a bad move. However, including this is such an improvement, you know? Thank you for the game. No problem. Thank you for stopping by. Anyway, I'm going to go. I have school tomorrow. So, who do we raid? It's an important question. Try move and give you greatest challenge next time. Go for it, man. I'll be happy to see it. Raid TK? That's a good point. Good suggestion. It's been a hot minute since I raided TK. But yeah, this wasn't a bad game of chess. Again, I'm a psycho, so I study dragon theory for fun. So as soon as you played EXD5 and Knight XD5, I knew exactly what the evaluation was. You know what I mean? It's hard to play this. It's hard. Psychologically and practically, it's hard to play like that, you know? And then opening finesse, you played what are completely logical moves, and it's hard. It's hard. The first time I had to think was bishop e6. You know what I mean? I played everything else on autopilot. Anti-Sicilian? Hey, go for it. I recommend anti-Sicilians. Well, you know, but you play chess. That's why I say openings aren't the most important thing. You know, just play moves. And you might not get it, but I don't know my anti-Sicilians that well. It's a huge hole in my repertoire. Anyway, we're rating TK. Have a great night, y'all. I'll come down to the endgame for sure. That's why endgames are so important. That's why I tell everyone to study endgames. They're so important. Rook endgames. You know, you were a grandmaster and I was me, you would have drawn that rook endgame because I played it incorrectly, you know? Anyway, see you.